Chapter 1270. This Mother Jiang was very smart. Hearing Empress Dowager Zhou's tone, she knew that she and Mother Meng had become scapegoats for the Zhaorong princess. However, from the beginning to the end she was just an accomplice. Just like that, she was sent to the heavenly prison and lost all her power. She really couldn't accept this, so she pushed all the blame onto Senior Meng and only hoped that she could get away with it. Mother Meng stared at her with eyes that seemed like they were about to spit out flames. "Surname Jiang, you're really despicable. Although I was the one who did it, the ones who received benefits from the princess are the two of us." She suddenly realized that she had said something wrong. Her mouth fell open in shock and she couldn't say a single word. At this point, Empress Dowager Zhou's heart was as clear as a mirror. The Zhaorong princess words could fool others, but it couldn't fool her. Although her heart was disappointed, thinking of her dead cousin, she still decided to take responsibility for Zhaorong. No matter what, she couldn't let the Zhaorong princess' life be ruined like this. "Shut up. Immediately take these two slaves away. First cut off their tongues, then cut off their limbs," Empress Dowager Zhou coldly ordered. Mother Meng and Mother Jiang were scared out of their wits as they begged for mercy on the ground. The guards pulled the two of them off the ground like wolves. Without saying a word, they cut off their tongues and blood flowed onto the ground. The two of them almost fainted from the pain. When the imperial guards and maids saw this scene, they couldn't help trembling in fear. They lowered their heads and hid in the corner, not daring to even breathe loudly. Mo Chuan and Chen Ning knew that Empress Dowager Zhou was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Cutting off the tongues of the two mothers was a warning to everyone here. If anyone dared to say anything, they would leak what happened today. Of course, the main reason was that these two would never be able to tell the secret of the Zhaorong princess. Mo Chuan's face sunk. When he was about to speak, Chen Ning secretly pulled on his sleeve and slightly shook her head at him. She knew that Mo Chuan wanted Empress Dowager Zhou to punish the Zhaorong princess, but Empress Dowager Zhou had already shown that she would protect her. No matter what Mo Chuan said, Empress Dowager Zhou would not punish the Zhaorong princess. Ah! The hands and feet of the two mothers were cut off by the guards and the two of them instantly fainted. This bloody scene caused everyone around to tremble in fear, and they were all scared out of their wits. Empress Dowager Zhou waved her hand, "Take them away and give them 3 feet of white silk." This meant that they were going to be silenced. The two nannies were dragged out like dead dogs by the guards while they were unconscious. What awaited them was the fate of being sentenced to death. Although these two people deserved it and did not deserve any sympathy, seeing them fall to such a pitiful end, Chen Ning had a deeper understanding of the ruthlessness of the royal palace. She gave a sigh in her heart, not wanting to stay here any longer. Empress Dowager Zhou was worried about Zhaorong princess, so she was not in the mood to talk to them. She waved her hand and had them leave, then she went to visit Zhaorong princess with her cane. Zhou, Ning Chin Ning Dowager Chin, Ning Chin Chin, and Ning was, Mother, Chin. Today's situation was full of twists and turns, and the development was completely out of her expectations. Even she, who had experienced countless storms and major events, felt helpless and had a terrible headache. Chapter 1271. Empress Dowager Zhou knew that if a girl lost her innocence, her life would be over. There was no man that would marry a girl that wasn't innocent. But Zhaorong was still so young, 16 years of age. Could it be that he could only watch as this beautiful and moving flower withered before it even fully bloomed? Thinking of how Zhaorong's mother held her hand last year and entrusted Zhaorong to her, Empress Dowager Zhou's heart sank. No, she couldn't turn a blind eye to it. Not to mention that Zhaorong had spent so much effort and suffered so much, it was all for a single person, and that was her son. No matter what, she had to complete her promise to her mother and let Zhaorong get what she wanted. Empress Dowager Zhou's heart was set and her footsteps became steady. She would think of a way to let Zhaorong live, giving her a chance to raise her head again. Mo Chuan tightly held Chen Ning's hand the entire time. Once they left the peaceful life palace, he quickly pulled her to a secluded corner, hiding from everyone's sight. "Ning, why are you so smart? If you didn't discover Mother Meng's scheme, I would have been forced into a dead end by Mother." He lifted her chin and gazed deeply into her eyes. His eyes were burning with passion. Chen Ning looked down and gave a soft sigh. "What? Are you not happy that you've seen through Zhaorong's scheme?" Mo Chuan could clearly feel the unhappiness in her heart. She shook her head in confusion and placed her face against Mo Chuan's chest, feeling his steady and powerful heartbeat. "Mo Chuan, I just feel that the palace is very terrifying. It's like a giant man-eating beast opening its bloody mouth. I'm very worried that one day, I will become a delicacy in its stomach, being swallowed by it without leaving a single piece of me behind." The scene of Mother Meng and Mother Jiang having their tongues and feet cut off flashed in front of her and she couldn't help closing her eyes. Emo Chuan felt her body tremble and tightly hugged her. He firmly said in her ear, "You don't need to be afraid of anything. With me here, even if the sky collapses, I will hold it up for you." His words were like a warm current that flowed into her heart, making her feel both sweet and blissful. She raised her head and met his gaze, a smile spreading from the corner of her eyes to the tip of her brows. "You're the one who said this. If I really cause chaos here one day, don't blame me. If you want to cause trouble, I'll help you." Emo Chuan lovingly pinched her nose. "I want to set this place on fire and burn it down." She rolled her eyes and deliberately said, "All right, then let's find a dark and windy night. I'll help you keep watch while you set the fire." He did not hesitate at all. Her eyes were a bit wet as she reached out to hold his neck and said in a soft voice, "Emo Chuan, don't be this good to me, you'll spoil me rotten. Silly girl, you are my most beloved girl. You are. If I don't treat you well, do you want me to treat Zhao Rong? What's more, spoiling you is my happiness." He gazed at her affectionately. Her face turned slightly red as she looked away and said, "You have a glib tongue. When did you learn to speak sweet words? Where did that silent Emo Chuan go?" He said with a smile, "Whether or not I'm a smooth talker, won't you know after you try it?" Chapter 1272. The two of them leaned against an empty corner of the palace wall, tightly hugging and kissing. Emo Chuan only wanted to gently kiss her, but when he touched her soft and warm lips, he found it hard to restrain himself. He couldn't help wanting more. Gradually, both of their bodies became hot because of this kiss. Her body softly leaned against him, and because it was hard to breathe, her body was weak. He picked her up, but he couldn't bear to end the kiss. Instead, he kissed her even deeper and even hotter. The two of them were clear on what was going to happen next. This was something they had been waiting for a long time. Emo Chuan felt the flames in his body slowly burn. He didn't need to suppress it anymore and try to control it. As long as they returned to the Guan Osprey Palace, he could do whatever he wanted. Both of their bodies were trembling slightly and their hearts were beating extremely fast. However, neither of them was willing to end this incomparably sweet kiss. This was a kiss so sweet that it made one's body tremble. Both of them felt as if they were floating in the air. "Who is it? There's an assassin. Someone come quickly." Suddenly, a few shouts rang out, startling the two people who were immersed in the sweet kiss. Emo Chuan saw several palace guards running in the direction of Chen Ning and him. His brows jumped up as he was filled with rage. These useless guards, they actually thought he and Ning were assassins. He wanted to scold them, but when he looked down, he saw Chen Ning's beautiful face and red lips. He could tell with a single glance that the two of them had just been intimate. Her beautiful appearance, he did not want any man to see it. Emo Chuan did not say a word as he carried her over the palace wall. Using his qinggong, he ran in the direction of the Guan Osprey Palace. Before the guards could arrive, they felt their vision blur, as if something had floated away. They stood in the corner and looked at each other in blank dismay. Their hearts were filled with shock. "Quickly report to the chief steward that there are assassins in the palace. The assassins are very strong, we have to protect the emperor's safety." After exchanging their opinions, the guards immediately split up to take action. Very quickly, the palace was filled with shouts of "Catch the assassins" and "Protect the emperor." Emo Chuan heard this from afar and knit his brows, feeling very angry. Being disturbed by them like this, he wouldn't be able to have any peace. But he was too lazy to care about them. He let them do what they wanted as he carried Chen Ning and headed for the Guan Osprey Palace. "This is bad, there's an assassin, there's an assassin. Someone come quickly, catch the assassin." Before he could reach the gates of Guan Osprey Palace, he heard a sharp cry filled with panic and fear. It was Xiao Xi's voice. Right after that, they saw Little Four run out of Guan Osprey Palace, screaming as he ran. Emo Chuan's brows tightly knit together. He was thinking about how Xiao Xi had become so rash. He didn't even see the shadow of an assassin and he was just randomly shouting. His figure flickered, landing in front of Xiao Xi, coldly saying, "Impudent, don't talk nonsense, where is the assassin?" Xiao Xi suddenly saw a person appear in front of him. In his panic, he did not recognize Emo Chuan's voice and did not see Emo Chuan's face. Xiaomo. Chapter 1273. Emo Chuan's face was cold as he appeared behind Xiao Xi in a flash. With a kick, Xiao Xi fell to the ground, falling face first. Xiao Xi's martial arts came from him, so he understood every move. So to deal with Xiao Xi, he only needed a single move. "Xiao Xi, open your dog eyes and look. This one is an assassin?" He looked down at Xiao Xi from above. Xiao Xi's body trembled and he jumped up from the ground. When he saw that the person in front of him was Mo Chuan, he was filled with surprise and joy. He was so excited that tears came out. "Emperor, you're fine, that's great." He then looked at Chen Ning. "The Empress is also safe and sound, this is simply too good. The servant was so worried that I almost died." He patted his chest and wiped away the tears of joy with a frightened look on his face. Mo Chuan coldly stared at him and gave a snort, making a big fuss over a small matter. "Where did this assassin come from? There was no assassin at all. Immediately go inform the head guard and tell them to stop making trouble. If they disturb the Empress Dowager, this one will not let them off easily." "Yes, yes," Xiao Xi replied. When he was prepared to send the order, he suddenly turned around. "Emperor, how can you be so sure that there was no assassin? This servant was shocked when I entered the Guan Osprey Palace. All the eunuchs and maids in the palace were killed and the blood on the ground had not even dried yet. This servant thought that it was the Emperor. You and the Empress had an accident, so..." Before he could finish, Mo Chuan had already cut him off. "What did you say? Everyone in the Guan Osprey Palace is dead?" No matter how calm he was, his voice couldn't help trembling. Could there really be assassins in the palace? Chen Ning's face instantly turned pale. "Xiaoru. Where's Xiaoru?" She struggled out of Mo Chuan's embrace and grabbed Xiao Xi's wrist, staring at him as she asked this question. This servant doesn't know. This servant only saw the dead people on the ground and immediately ran out to report." Xiao Xi stuttered as his face turned white. Chen Ning did not wait for him to finish before letting go of his hand and quickly running into the Guan Osprey Palace. She used all her strength to run and her heart almost jumped out of her chest, but she still felt that she wasn't running fast enough. "Xiaoru, you can't have anything happen to you." "Definitely not. If something happens to you, A voice in her heart shouted loudly. The wind whistled past her ears. She ran until she couldn't catch her breath, but she still ran with all her might. All of a sudden, she felt her body lighten as a strong arm wrapped around her waist. She felt as if she was flying, and her speed was even faster than a galloping horse. "Nothing will happen to Xiaoru," Mo Chuan said in a deep voice as he brought her into the Guan Osprey Palace. Once they stepped into the palace, a thick smell of blood filled the air, filled their noses. That choking smell made even Mo Chuan's expression change. He protected Chen Ning and walked in step by step. When he saw the scene in front of him, his pupils suddenly shrank. Corpses. The entire courtyard was filled with corpses. Each person had died the same way, all of them had their heads cut off. Blood soaked the blue brick ground, forming a pool of blood in the courtyard. Chapter 1274. Xiaoru. Seeing the tragic scene in front of her, Chen Ning felt like all the energy in her body had been sucked out. Her legs turned soft, and if it wasn't for Mo Chuan holding her, she would have already fallen to the ground. "Xiaoru," she called out again. Her throat was tight and dry, almost making it impossible for her to make a sound. Mo Chuan's eyes quickly looked around, while feeling his surroundings with vigilance. There was nothing strange. There was no breathing. There was only a deathly silence mixed with the smell of blood. This was the smell of death. Mo Chuan's right hand slowly clenched into a fist and a sharp glow appeared in his eyes. This was a clear provocation. There was actually someone who dared to kill people in his palace. They clearly did not place the guards in their eyes at all and did not place the emperor in their eyes at all. Who was this bold? Xiao Xi, immediately notify Jue Feng and have him lead all the secret guards to the Peaceful Life Palace to protect the Empress Dowager. If the Empress Dowager loses a single hair, have them bring their heads in. He suddenly turned around and shouted at Xiao Xi. Yes. Xiao Xi suddenly came to his senses and ran off. Mo Chuan tightly held Chen Ning's hand, feeling that her hand was as cold as ice. His body kept trembling as he looked at the corpses in the yard in a daze, not moving at all. Ning. He tried to call out in her ear. Chen Ning's body moved. She suddenly forcefully grabbed Mo Chuan's hand and stood up straight. Then she let go and walked into the yard step by step. Ning. Mo Chuan took a step forward and pulled her hand, but she threw it off. Don't stop me, I want to find Xiaoru. She said word for word as she looked at the bloody heads on the ground. She squatted down and picked up a head. She used her sleeve to wipe the blood off her face, revealing her face. Seeing that it wasn't Xiaoru, she gently put the head down and picked up another one. She wiped it off and looked again. Mo Chuan silently watched her search for Xiaoru in the pool of blood. He wanted to stop her, but he knew that he couldn't. He knew the relationship between her and Xiaoru. Although Xiao Ru was her maid, in her heart she was no different than her own little sister. If Xiao Ru really died, what would she do? Even he didn't know. He only knew that her heart must be filled with fear right now because she was afraid of finding Xiao Ru among the corpses on the ground. But all the people in the palace were dead. How could a girl like Xiao Ru, who didn't know any martial arts, escape? She would definitely find Xiao Ru. When she saw Xiao Ru's corpse, how could she take such a big blow? Take a break. I'll help you find it. Emo Chuan suddenly jumped forward and hugged her. Seeing her pale face without a trace of blood, his heart filled with pain. No, I want to find it myself. Emo Chuan, move aside. Chin of Emo of her. She didn't even look at Emo Chuan as her eyes fell onto the heads on the ground. Her eyes were filled with sorrow. She used her trembling hands to pick up another head. Emo Chuan's guess was right, she was indeed afraid. She was afraid that the next head she was holding would be Xiao Ru's. Slowly. Of Ning of blood. Of Xiao. No, not Xiao Ru, none of them were Xiao Ru. Chapter 1275. Every time she called Xiao Ru's name in the past, Xiao Ru would be like a happy little bird, running out of the room and chirping around her, laughing non-stop. That round little face would never be worried and would always have a sweet smile on it. But now, her voice echoed in the empty yard and that familiar smiling face did not appear in front of her again. Xiao Ru. Xiao Ru. Qin Ning did not give up and raised her voice. While calling out, she pushed open door after door, carefully searching. She had seen all the corpses on the ground and none of them were Xiao Ru's, so Xiao Ru was definitely still alive. She must still be here, perhaps she was hiding in a corner. She went from room to room and searched every corner of Guan Osprey Palace, but she still couldn't find anything. There was no Xiao Ru. She couldn't be seen alive, she couldn't be seen dead. Emo Chuan, quickly give the order and send people to find Xiao Ru. I'm guessing that she must have escaped. She must have seen the murderer do this, so she escaped. She didn't die, she really didn't die. Qin Ning grabbed Emo Chuan's hand and anxiously said this. She did not believe that Xiao Ru would die because without Xiao Ru's corpse, she definitely wouldn't die. Alright, I'll immediately send people to find her. Don't worry, nothing will happen to Xiao Ru. Emo Chuan patted her shoulder and comforted her. His eyes fell onto the corpses and his pupils turned into a black dot. He had carefully looked over the corpses just now. All of them had their heads cut off and the cuts were very smooth. It was clear that the murderer moved very quickly and used an incomparably sharp and strange weapon. It wasn't a blade or a sword. Although these maids and eunuchs did not know martial arts, the murderer's method of killing them was very clean and fast. It was unimaginable because there was no panic or fear on their faces. Rather, they were very calm. It was obvious that death had befallen them before they even realized the danger they were in. What shocked Emo Chuan the most was that there was only one murderer. It was because of this that he felt a sense of danger. The murderer had killed all the maids and eunuchs in the Guan Osprey Palace and Xiao Ru had disappeared. It was clear that the murderer's target was not anyone else. It was Qin Ning, who lived in the Guan Osprey Palace. Who wanted Ninger's life? Could it be that the murderer and the person who swapped the poisonous snake on the wedding night were the same person? Emo Chuan was filled with doubts, but now was not the time to find the truth. He needed to protect Qin Ning and find Xiao Ru's whereabouts. In the entire palace, other than him and Jue Feng, there was no one that was a match for this murderer. So during this period of time he would not leave her side and protect her. The murderer has already left, but no one knows when he will come back. This person's martial arts are very strong. He was able to avoid the eyes and ears of the palace guards and enter the palace to kill without restraint. This means that he is very familiar with the situation in the palace. It is very possible that he has not truly left, but is hiding somewhere waiting for an opportunity to strike. So no matter what, you cannot leave my side. What I am worried about now is whether or not the murderer will harm Mother. Emo Chuan couldn't help looking at the direction of the Peaceful Life Palace. Chapter 1276. Qin Ning closed her eyes and 2 streams of tears flowed down. She wiped her tears with her sleeves and opened her eyes to say, Emo Chuan, filial piety comes first. Go to the Peaceful Life Palace to visit the Empress Dowager and I'll go find Xiao Ru. No. You can't leave me no matter what. If the killer hasn't gone far and you meet him, wouldn't that be a dead end? I don't care. If anything happens to Xiao Ru, I don't want to live anymore. The tears in her eyes fell again and her heart was filled with unbearable pain. Before she left the palace, Xiao Ru had caught up to her and held her hand, wanting to be with her. That reluctant gaze appeared in front of her again and it filled her heart with pain. If she knew it would be like this, she would have kept Xiao Ru by her side no matter what. It was all her fault. She had kept Xiao Ru here, causing Xiao Ru's whereabouts to be unknown, and she didn't know if she was alive or dead. Chen Ning tightly bit her lips. Even when she tasted blood on the tip of her tongue, she didn't notice it at all. Mo Chuan saw this and his heart filled with pain. He forcefully shook her shoulder. Ning, I won't allow you to say this again. If you die, what will happen to me? Have you ever thought about me? Chen Ning's nose turned sour and she looked at him with a sad expression. Mo Chuan, you don't understand how important Xiao Ru is in my heart. She wants to be with me and I promised that I would never leave her, but I still left her here and let her encounter danger. If she really dies, it will be because of me. I harmed her. I harmed the best and most loyal Xiao Ru in this world. Believe me, Xiao Ru definitely isn't dead. Think about it, the killer's martial arts are unfathomable. He could easily kill these maids and eunuchs. If he really wanted to kill Xiao Ru, would Xiao Ru be able to escape? Now that Xiao Ru isn't among the corpses, there are only two possibilities. First, Xiao Ru left the Guan Yu palace before the killer arrived. I don't know where she is right now, but she must still be in the palace. I will immediately send people to find her. Second, if we can't find Xiao Ru, that means the killer took her away. This means the killer's true target is you. So he took Xiao Ru away. Since he didn't kill Xiao Ru, he must be using her life to threaten you. As long as you wait in the palace, you will definitely receive the killer's message. Mo Chuan calmly analyzed. His voice was deep and powerful. His eyes were filled with a serious look, giving him a convincing strength. In terms of intelligence, Chen Ning was not below Mo Chuan, but she was too worried, so how could she calm down and think about it? Hearing Mo Chuan's words at this time, she couldn't help nodding and saying, "You're right. Mo Chuan, let's go to the Peaceful Life Palace now." Before the two of them left, Xiao Si had already rushed back to report to Mo Chuan. Emperor Zhui Feng has already brought the secret guards around the Peaceful Life Palace, but there are no traces of the assassins. The Empress Dowager does not know anything, so this servant did not disturb the Empress Dowager. Of mother is, and is. Mo Chuan looked at Chen Ning again and his mood became even heavier. Chuan looked at Chen Mo, Chen Ning Mo, Chen Xiao Chuan Mo. Just what kind of grudge did this person have with Ning? Why did he want her life so badly? Chapter 1277. The Guan Osprey Palace was filled with rivers of blood and corpses covered the ground, but Mo Chuan knew that this matter couldn't be spread out, otherwise it would cause panic in everyone's hearts. Mo Chuan had already sent Xiao Si to investigate. Other than the Guan Osprey Palace, there were no other traces of the assassins and no one else had died to the assassins. Xiao Si, go find Zhui Feng and then have the palace guards search the entire palace, not missing a single place. We must find Xiao Ru's whereabouts. He coldly ordered. Yes, Emperor. Xiao Ru. Xiao Ru isn't dead? Xiao Si's eyes instantly lit up. Mo Chuan nodded and said in a deep voice, but she's missing and it's possible she left the Guan Osprey Palace when the assassins came. Immediately bring people to find her, there can't be any mistakes. Xiao Si's face flashed with a look of guilt and he flew off without any hesitation. Not long after, Zhui Feng appeared in front of Mo Chuan and Chen Ning. Zhui Feng, this one will give you two tasks. First, find Xiao Ru's whereabouts and second, find the murderer's whereabouts. Mo Chuan immediately gave the order. Zhui Feng was shocked. Miss Xiao Ru is missing? His gaze fell on the corpses and the pool of blood in the courtyard, and he shuddered. Mo Chuan then said, you can't tell the Empress Dowager about this matter, otherwise she will be worried. Yes, Emperor. Zhui Feng's face turned serious and he suddenly said, Empress, this subordinate wants to know which room Miss Xiao Ru is in. This subordinate wants to find something she has used before. Alright, come with me. Although Chen Ning didn't know what Zhui Feng meant, she still brought him to Xiao Ru's room. She saw that everything in the room was neatly arranged without a single mess. It was like Xiao Ru had just left temporarily and would be back soon. She looked at this familiar scene and her eyes couldn't help turning warm as tears almost fell down. Zhui Feng looked around the room and walked in front of the bed. He picked up a handkerchief on the pillow and sniffed it. Empress, this subordinate wants this handkerchief. What do you need this for? There is Miss Xiao Ru's scent on it. This subordinate can use it to find Miss Xiao Ru's whereabouts. Alright, Zhui Feng, you have to find Xiao Ru. I'll leave Xiao Ru to you. Chen Ning knew that Zhui Feng's tracking skill was strong, but she never thought that Zhui Feng would use his sense of smell. This was simply like a police dog, instantly increasing her confidence in Zhui Feng. Zhui Feng walked around the room and even laid on the ground to check. He came out and walked out of the room. Looking at the corpses strewn all over the courtyard and the thick smell of blood floating in the air, his brows unconsciously furrowed even tighter. He began to walk around the courtyard, checking the pillars, the stone benches and the flowers and plants in the flower bed. Feng Emo Chen Emo Feng. Emo Chuan and Chen Ning watched his every move without blinking. The two of them did not say a word and did not disturb him. Zhui Feng finally came to the northeast corner. He looked at the base of the wall for a bit before jumping over the wall. After a while he walked in from the main door. Your Majesty, this subordinate can already conclude that Miss Xiao Ru has been kidnapped by the murderer. Hearing this, Mo Chuan and Chen Ning's expressions changed. Chapter 1278. Chen Ning let out a sigh of relief, but her heart was still hanging in the air. Zhui Feng, can you find the whereabouts of the culprit and Xiao Ru? She anxiously asked. Zhui Feng hesitated for a bit before replying, this subordinate will try his best, but the culprit is very good at tracking and hiding. He didn't leave behind any traces and this subordinate finally found some clues. As for whether or not I can find the whereabouts of the culprit, this subordinate does not have 100% guarantee. Then hurry up and look. As long as there is a glimmer of hope, we can't miss it. Mo Chuan said. Yes. Zhui Feng suddenly said, Empress, do you remember when we were in Dr. Zhang's palace? This subordinate said that there was someone spying on us. Now this subordinate can be sure that the person spying on us is the same person as the person who broke into the palace today and the person who kidnapped Miss Xiao Ru. Moreover, I don't know why, but although this subordinate has never seen this person's face before, he seems to have a familiar feeling. Empress, think carefully, have you offended anyone? Chen Ning looked up and thought for a bit. A thought suddenly flashed through her mind. Zhui Feng, do you remember when we were on the way to the Miracle Doctor Valley, we met that little white-eyed wolf who knew how to shrink his bones? Zhui Feng involuntarily said, you mean the Purple Heaven Pavilion's killer? That's right, it's him. If I had to say who I've offended, it could only be this person. Mo Chuan interrupted. The Purple Heaven Pavilion's killer? Ning, did you meet the Purple Heaven Pavilion's killer? His face was surprisingly serious. Yes, Mo Chuan, I forgot to tell you about this matter. What happened is like this. Chen Ning told Mo Chuan everything that happened when she met the one called Xiao Bao. After she finished, Mo Chuan couldn't help saying, Ning, your heart is too kind. You have to know that it's easy to catch a tiger but hard to let it go. How can you easily provoke the people of the Purple Heaven Pavilion? They are like maggots in the bone. Once they entangle you, they won't give up until they reach their goal. Since you've caught the killer, you should interrogate him and make him reveal the location of the Purple Heaven Pavilion's nest. I will send people to eliminate this evil in the martial arts world and eliminate this evil for the people of the martial arts world. You have to know that the Purple Heaven Pavilion has suddenly risen in the martial arts world. They are very secretive and have assassinated who knows how many people of the martial arts world. There is no one who doesn't hate the Purple Heaven Pavilion to the bone. Continuing this organization will only bring disaster to the world and cause more people to die. Chen Ning said with an ashamed expression, it's all my fault, I was soft-hearted. Although I knew he was using a bone-shrinking technique, seeing that he was only a 5 or 6-year-old child, I couldn't bring myself to torture him. If I knew he was this ruthless, I wouldn't have been merciful back then. If I could, she would have she bit of. Chapter 1279. But if I didn't let that little white-eyed wolf go, Xiao Ru wouldn't have been kidnapped by him. I used that kind of method to humiliate him, so he must have hated me to the bone. If he took out his hatred for me on Xiao Ru, how would I have the face to see Xiao Ru? Chen Ning's eyes sparkled with tears. Thinking of Xiao Ru falling into the hands of the Purple Heaven Pavilion assassin, her heart felt like it was being stabbed by 10,000 needles. Zhui Feng, are you sure that the person who kidnapped Xiao Ru is that assassin? She still had a tiny bit of hope in her heart, hoping that it wasn't this person. Zhui Feng nodded. When the Empress mentioned that assassin, this subordinate remembered. No wonder this subordinate felt that he was familiar, so it was him. He had a natural sensitivity to smells and after smelling it, it would leave a memory in his mind. Only after so many days Xiao Bao's smell had already faded, so even though he had found the assassin's hiding place, he didn't think of this person at all. Chen Ning's heart sank and her last bit of hope was shattered. However, she quickly took a breath and clenched her fists. Zhui Feng, immediately go and find Xiao Ru and this person's whereabouts. If he dares to harm a single hair on Xiao Ru's head, I will return it 10 times over. Yes. Zhui Feng knew this matter was very urgent, so he didn't delay any longer. He sniffed the air with his nose and then flew off in the northeast direction. Ning, believe in Jue Feng he will definitely find Xiaoru. With his skills he is not below that assassins he will definitely bring Xiaoru back safely. Mo Chuan held on to Qin Ning because she was already swaying. When his arm grabbed her waist she fell into his embrace. Her face was as white as paper without a trace of blood, making her eyes seem even darker. Grabbing Mo Chuan's sleeve, her eyes were filled with guilt. Mo Chuan, the people in the palace all died because of me. The person that assassin wanted to kill was me, not them. It was because he couldn't find me that he killed them to vent his anger. Mo Chuan didn't wait for her to finish before cutting her off. The Purple Heaven Pavilion's people are cruel and murderous. Do they need a reason to kill? Even if you stay here, do you think that after the assassin kills you he will let them go? You still think that the people of Purple Heaven Pavilion are too kind. In order to achieve their goals they can be said to be unscrupulous. As long as they can complete the task, it doesn't matter how many people they kill. In their eyes, killing people is like stepping on ants. As long as they have money they can kill anyone. Last year there was a massacre in Nanxing. A Jianghu senior who had retired for many years and his entire family of 103 people were killed by the people of Zixiao Pavilion. The murderer even set fire to the scene and turned it into a pile of ruins. The fire spread to the surrounding area, and hundreds of families were destroyed because of this fire, causing public anger in the martial arts world. There were countless incidents like this. Over the years, the Purple Heaven Pavilion had become the scum of the martial arts world. There was no one who didn't want to eradicate it. Unfortunately, their whereabouts are too mysterious, and no one has even seen their true faces. However, since they dared to target you, I will absolutely not let them off. Chapter 1280. Legend has it that there were many experts in Purple Heaven Pavilion and there were many martial arts experts that wanted to eliminate evil for the people. They formed an alliance and sent people into Purple Heaven Pavilion, wanting to eliminate them in one fell swoop. But this alliance of experts never returned and there was no news of them ever again. It was said that everyone was buried in Purple Heaven Pavilion. From then on, the people of the Jianghu changed their expressions when mentioning Purple Heaven Pavilion. Everyone gnashed their teeth in hatred, but no one dared to touch the tiger whiskers of the Purple Heaven Pavilion anymore. Ning, think about it carefully. How did you provoke the assassins of Purple Heaven Pavilion? You don't know martial arts, you're not a person of the Jianghu, and you've never had any grudges with anyone. It seems like they don't need to take your life, right? A doubt appeared in Mo Chuan's heart and he couldn't understand it no matter what. Qin Ning thought about it. The first time I saw the assassins of Purple Heaven Pavilion, it was in the East Qin guest house. East Qin? Could this matter be related to Namu Kuo? Mo Chuan knit his brows. She shook her head and said, I'm not sure what happened, but the night before Namu Kuo left the capital, there were indeed assassins from Purple Heaven Pavilion that came to assassinate him. According to Namu Kuo, this wasn't the first time. That night, all the assassins were annihilated, all of them killed themselves, not leaving a single one alive. After that, on the way to the Miracle Physician Valley, the assassin named Xiaobao suddenly appeared. This time his target was me and I also found the unique symbol of Purple Heaven Pavilion on his shoes. Mo Chuan said in a deep voice, if that's the case then Purple Heaven Pavilion and you have no grudges. Then there must be someone who hates you so they spent a large amount of money to invite people from Purple Heaven Pavilion to take your life. Ning, I suspect that this matter and the matter of the snake being swapped out are the same person. Qin Ning opened her beautiful eyes and looked at him without blinking. Why do you have this kind of suspicion? Mo Chuan calmly analyzed, the matter of you being poisoned last time was very strange. Even now we still haven't found out who the mastermind was. When you left the capital, I sent people to monitor He Shou Zheng, but he didn't make any strange movements. He only interacted with the people from the country guarding palace once. Because the country guarding palace is old and weak, he doesn't care about worldly affairs. He hasn't been in court for a long time and he hasn't even seen you. If you say that this matter was done by the country guarding palace, I really can't believe it. But to be able to assassinate to be this way without any flaws and to be so meticulous, it is impossible. Only a well-trained assassin would be able to do this, leaving no traces. This means that the mastermind has that you. This means that the assassin is. This is that the guarding palace is, it is it. Heaven Pavilion is to be. In fact, the name of the murderer was already on the verge of being revealed. It was just that this name was too heavy for him to say. Qin Ning's eyes sparkled and she pursed her lips, but she did not say anything. Chapter 1281. Qin Ning lowered her lashes, but she still did not say a word. She had already guessed it was Zhao Rong Princess, but thinking of her relationship with Mo Chuan, she didn't say anything. Mo Chuan took a deep breath and decided to face this matter, even though this matter made him feel shocked and incredulous. After that incident, you speculated that the mastermind behind this incident must have an illustrious identity. Moreover, she was very familiar with Mai and the Princess Royal's character. She knew that I was afraid of snakes since I was young, so the person who used the trick of swapping poisonous snakes would not be me, but you. After the incident, she purposely set up a diversion and had a lowly city gate official deliver the antidote. Then she led the clues to the Duke of Jinghua. But the reason I never suspected Zhao Rong was because no matter how evil she was still a 16-year-old girl. How could she be so scheming and careful with every step? This was also something that I couldn't understand no matter how much I thought about it. If it wasn't Zhao Rong, I can't think of anyone else that would have this kind of deep hatred for you. No matter what, Zhao Rong and the people from the Purple Heaven Pavilion must be connected. Even if the matter last time had nothing to do with her, the killer that came to the palace today must be related to her. If Xiao Ru was really kidnapped by the Purple Heaven Pavilion's assassins, I think Jure Feng won't be able to find anything this time. The Purple Heaven Pavilion's assassins are experts at hiding their tracks, so the assassin's tracking technique should not be below Jure Feng's. Qin Ning looked up at the northeast direction Jure Feng left in. Her brows slightly knit. Mentioning Xiao Ru, she couldn't help being moved. Jure Feng can't find the assassin's whereabouts, but there is one person he can definitely find. That person is Zhao Rong Princess. She said word for word. Mo Chuan's eyes lit up. That's right, Zhao Rong is still in Mother's palace, so she will definitely contact the assassin. As long as Jue Feng follows her, he will definitely find the assassin's whereabouts. Why didn't I think of this earlier? I'll immediately call Jue Feng back. He clapped his hand and called over the secret guards, ordering them to immediately find Jue Feng. These secret guards were the same as Jue Feng. They had received strict training since they were young. Although their tracking techniques couldn't compare to Jue Feng's, they were only slightly weaker. Not to mention the fact that the secret guards had an invisible way to communicate with each other. Ning, from now on, you are not allowed to leave my side. I'm worried that the Purple Heaven Pavilion assassin will find you and make a move. No matter how vicious that murderer is, he's still someone who took someone's money to eliminate a disaster. Don't tell me that I have to hide under your wings for the rest of my life just because I'm afraid that the killer will come for my head? Qin Ning curled her lips and revealed a sarcastic smile. The enemy was hiding in the shadows, mysterious and strong. It was as if he could kill her with a single move. But was she afraid? Of course not. Ning, you can't stay here any longer. You should stay in my previous palace for now. Mo Chuan looked around. The smell of blood in the air still hadn't dissipated. Ning, you can't stay here any longer. No, I want to stay here. If that killer wants my life, let him come and take it at any time. Chapter 1282. Qin Ning curled her lips into a smile. I won't give up until I reach my goal. Very good, I hope that he can come find me again. Mo Chuan, although I don't know martial arts, I'm not a doll that can be manipulated by others. If he wants my head, he has to see if he has the skills. Although Mo Chuan knew that she was smart, she was not facing a normal person. Rather, she was facing an experienced assassin from the Purple Heaven Pavilion. Even he had to be careful. No, I definitely can't let you be in any danger. I won't be in danger, the ones in danger are others. Mo Chuan, you don't need to worry about me, I'm the one who's starting to worry about you. Worry about me? What would happen to me? Qin Ning's clear eyes looked at him. Do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know? You little girl, if you have something to say, just say it. You're not allowed to speak in riddles in front of me. Mo Chuan angrily stared at her. Alright, since it's like this, I'll speak the truth. Do you think that today's matter is over? I believe that in just a few days the Empress Dowager will bring up this matter again. I'm afraid you won't be able to escape. Mo Chuan's heart trembled and he said in a deep voice, You're referring to Zhao Rong's matter? She clearly reaped what she sowed. How could mother let me marry this kind of scheming girl? Do you think she won't? In our eyes, Zhao Rong is indeed scheming and her methods are ruthless, but in the eyes of the Empress Dowager, it might not be like this. Actually, Zhao Rong only needs a very good reason to do this for the Empress Dowager to forgive her. That is, she likes you and she won't marry anyone but you. Qin Ning only needed to see Empress Dowager Zhou's eyes and her last words to guess what she was thinking. She did not plan on pursuing Zhao Rong's mistake at all. Even if she knew that it was Zhao Rong who hired assassins to kill her, Empress Dowager Zhou would still protect her. Ning, her mother is not like what you think. She does things fairly, and although she does favor Zhao Rong, if Zhao Rong does something wrong, mother will definitely punish her and will not let it go. I am mother's biological daughter, but ever since I was young, as long as I did something wrong, mother has never shown any mercy to me. The eldest princess is also her biological daughter, but she is even stricter with Enlu than she is with me. How could she let Zhao Rong do as she pleases? As long as Imperial Mother knows what Zhao Rong has done, she will definitely not force me to take Zhao Rong as my consort. Mo Chuan disagreed with Chen Ning's words. In his heart, Empress Dowager Zhou was a strict mother, so he respected Empress Dowager Zhou more than he loved her. Chen Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes at him. How can you men understand women? It is because you and the eldest princess are the Empress Dowager's children that she is strict and harsh. No matter what she does to you, it will not affect your mother and son relationship. But Zhao Rong is different because her mother entrusted her to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager is a person whose words are as heavy as a mountain. She will do whatever she promises. So no matter what Zhao Rong does, she will protect Zhao Rong to the end, as long as Zhao Rong does not personally kill someone in front of her. Chapter 1283. Chen Ning softly said, "This is a woman. As long as Zhao Rong insists that she did all these things for you, the Empress Dowager's heart will soften and she will forgive her for everything." Mo Chuan looked at her with a strange gaze. What are you women's brains thinking? How could you have this kind of strange thought? She gave a self-deprecating smile and said, "Women are emotional and men are rational. It is because of this that Zhao Rong would disregard everything and do all these crazy things to obtain you. Mo Chuan, what did you do to her to make her so loyal to you and hate me to the bone?" She raised her eyelashes and revealed a smile as she looked at Mo Chuan. "Ning, there is nothing between me and Zhao Rong. She was only 13 when she left the capital city. Do you think I'm a beast? What would I do to a 13-year-old girl?" Mo Chuan raised his brows at her. "Then how would I know?" Chen Ning's eyes suddenly looked in the direction of the Peaceful Life Palace. "Mo Chuan, if anything happens to Xiao Ru, I don't care if she is your cousin or older cousin, I will not let her go." She gritted her teeth. She didn't care how Zhao Rong harmed her, but she would not allow Zhao Rong to harm the people by her side, especially Xiao Ru, who was loyal to her and closer than a sister. This was the first person who had given her warmth since she came to this era. "You don't plan on telling mother what Zhao Rong did?" Mo Chuan did not care what she did to Zhao Rong, he only cared about her. "Is there any use in telling the Empress Dowager? I think the current Zhao Rong princess must be crying like a pear blossom in the rain, looking very pitiful. The Empress Dowager can't even love her anymore, not to mention the matter between Zhao Rong and the Purple Heaven Pavilion is just our speculation, there is no proof. Do you think the Empress Dowager will believe my empty words? Mo Chuan, this cousin of yours is also very smart. Today in the Peaceful Life Palace she put on a good show that made me look at her in a new light." She couldn't help thinking that the Zhao Rong princess was much smarter than the first time she met her. When she met her on the way back to the capital city, the Zhao Rong princess was still an unruly girl who only knew how to act. She didn't look like she was that smart. The second time she met her in the Taihe floor, she still had a look of hatred on her face. But Zhao Rong's performance today made her have a new opinion. She had endured it in front of Empress Dowager Zhou, not revealing a trace of hatred towards her and not loudly scolding her. She was pretending to be a pitiful little white flower. If she didn't understand the Zhao Rong princess, she would have thought it was a completely different person. It had to be known that Zhao Rong Junju hated her to the bone. She had always been arrogant and unruly, with an explosive temper. It wouldn't be strange at all if she raised her hand and scolded someone she didn't like. The strange thing was that she knew how to act. Mo Chuan Ning's actions were good, but she knew how to act. "You're saying that there is someone behind Zhao Rong?" Mo Chuan's expression slightly changed. He thought back to the scene he had seen in Peaceful Life Palace and felt it was strange. With Zhao Rong Juanju's personality, she was not the kind of person who would cry after being wronged. Chapter 1284. Mo Chuan clapped his hands and suddenly said, "I know. The person who helped Zhao Rong with this plan is someone from the Purple Heaven Pavilion. I didn't understand before. Zhao Rong is so young, how could she think of this kind of complicated revenge plan? If this series of events was planned by someone from the Purple Heaven Pavilion, then it makes sense." Chen Ning revealed a faint smile. "Mo Chuan, you're still praising me for being smart, but you're clearly smarter than me." Mo Chuan glared at her and said, "But there's one thing I still don't understand. When you and I got married, Zhao Rong wasn't in the capital and she didn't even see you, so why would she make a move against you? Chen Ning gave a faint sigh. The person she wanted to harm wasn't necessarily me. The person she hated to death at the time was your Empress. No matter who sat in that position, she couldn't tolerate it. Although she said this, there was still a trace of doubt in her heart. This was because the first incident with the poisonous snake left a deep impression on her. It could be said to be an extremely elaborate killing plan that had almost no flaws. The second time she met the Purple Heaven Pavilion assassin, it was Xiao Bao who knew the bone-shrinking technique. Although that plan could be considered clever, it couldn't compare to the first series of plans. Today's matter in the Guan Yu Palace could be considered the third time she met the Purple Heaven Pavilion assassin. This time it was even simpler. The other side couldn't find her people, so they killed the palace maids and eunuchs to vent their anger. This kind of action was like a bad-tempered child who couldn't get candy, so they smashed their toys to vent their anger. Chen Ning only had one word to describe this kind of action: childish. Zhao Rong Princess had played out 2 plays in the Royal Study and the Peaceful Life Palace. Although it could be considered a setup, it was very rough, allowing her to instantly find a flaw. The 2 assassinations after that with Zhao Rong's performance, compared to the perfect assassination plan from the first time, did not seem like it was done by the same person. But no matter what, she still saw 2 sharp weapons slowly reaching out towards her from the fog. They had large fangs and if she wasn't careful she would lose her life. She was in the light before and the other side was in the dark. Now that the other side had revealed their identity, she, Chen Ning, would not sit and wait for death. A tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. This was Chen Ning's style of doing things. Amo Chuan, can you send me to Dr. Zhang's palace tonight? I have something I want to ask my master about. Why do you want to find him? Do you really need him to teach you and I can't? Hearing Gu Qingze's name, Amo Chuan's face slightly sunk. Even though Gu Qingze had developed the pushing mountain crossbow, shocking the world and even generously giving him the priceless pushing mountain crossbow's blueprint, when he heard Chen Ning confidently mention the word master, his heart was in a bad mood. He didn't know why, but he couldn't help having this hostility towards Gu Qingze. He didn't have Mo, but he couldn't help having this hostility towards Gu Qingze. Chen Ning's sparkling eyes looked at him like she could see through his thoughts. She said with a smile, Mo Chuan, if I didn't understand you, I would have suspected that you were jealous of my master. I'm Shen Yam. Mo Chuan said. However, his natural arrogance prevented him from admitting it. Chapter 1285. Mo Chuan was magnanimous and generous in front of Chen Ning. But once he arrived at Dr. Zhang's palace, he felt even more dissatisfied. Chen Ning immediately pulled Gu Qingze into the quiet room. When Mo Chuan was prepared to follow, she suddenly turned around. Mo Chuan, I have a very important matter to discuss with my master, so I'll have to trouble you to wait outside. That's right, you can't let anyone eavesdrop on my conversation with my master. I believe you can do this, right? She gave him an apologetic smile and before waiting for his reply, she closed the door and slammed it shut. Mo Chuan looked at the 2 closed doors and the flames in his eyes almost burned the doors. This damned lass, she actually wanted him, a dignified emperor, to act as a lookout? Was there anything more insulting than this? He gritted his teeth and wished he could smash the door with his fist. Then he would drag out that skinny young man who always sat in a wheelchair to teach him a lesson. But thinking about how this fellow had painstakingly created the mountain-pushing crossbow's blueprint and how he had saved Chu Xiaobai from the gates of hell, his fist stopped in midair. Forget it. Seeing that this fellow had some talent and that he was Ninger's master, he would endure it. Mo Chuan took a deep breath and suppressed the turbid air in his chest. Since he wanted to do it, he would do it to the best of his ability. Not only would he not let others eavesdrop on their conversation, he would not eavesdrop on them either. Mo Chuan directly entered the room Chu Xiaobai was in. Dr. Zhang was standing in front of the bed with a stunned expression. Only when Mo Chuan walked in front of him did he realize it. When he came back to his senses and saw that the person in front of him was Mo Chuan, Dr. Zhang almost fell off his chair. Emperor? Emperor, this old minister greets the emperor. Mo Chuan reached out to support him and Dr. Zhang could no longer kneel down. He stood up and revealed a respectful expression. Dr. Zhang, is Xiaobai still not awake? Mo Chuan asked in a soft voice. His eyes fell onto Chu Xiaobai's face with a look of concern. The current Chu Xiaobai was completely different from the living dead state he was before. His face had already recovered its luster and there was even a faint trace of blood. His eyes were closed and he was sleeping very peacefully. His lips were slightly curled up like he was having a beautiful dream. Mo Chuan did not dare speak loudly like this. afraid of waking him up from his dream. Yes, King Jing still hasn't woken up. Dr. Zhang replied in a small voice. Mo Chuan noticed the confusion on his face and asked, "Is there something wrong with Xiao Bai's condition? Or is it recurring?" "No, not at all. King Jing An's current condition is very good. This old minister has just taken his pulse and his pulse is becoming stronger and stronger. Moreover, his internal energy has been slowly circulating." "No, Dr. Zhang," Xiao of Mo Chuan said with a sigh. "Xiao, Chuan Yu of Chu," Chuan said. "Chuan of Xiao. Qin of Shi, Xiao Qin." Xiao said this. "This one will send Xiao Si to take care of Xiao Bai. This one will send Xiao Si over to take care of Xiao Bai." Dr. Zhang waved his hand. Being able to see King Jing and getting better day by day, this old minister is happier than anything. Only. Chapter 1286. But what? Mo Chuan's heart jumped up. Dr. Zhang said, "But this old minister feels it strange. King Jing An's pulse is very stable, he should have woken up a long time ago, but he has already slept for 2 days and hasn't opened his eyes at all. This kind of situation, this old minister has never seen it in his decades of practicing medicine, so this is very puzzling." Mo Chuan couldn't help knitting his brows. Although he wasn't skilled in medicine, he knew that Dr. Zhang was telling the truth. "Then what did the divine Dr. Gu say?" he asked. "The divine Dr. Gu said that King Jing can eat and sleep now so he won't die. He told this old minister not to meddle in other people's business." Dr. Zhang replied with an awkward expression. Mo Chuan's face instantly sunk and he gave a snort. This Gu Qingze, he actually said this kind of irresponsible words. What did he mean by he can eat and sleep and won't die? But the divine Dr. Gu's words aren't wrong. Although King Jing hasn't woken up yet, when this old minister feeds him, King Jing knows to swallow and his complexion is getting better day by day. Perhaps this old minister really is thinking too much. Dr. Zhang said. These words were also reasonable. Mo Chuan nodded. He could see that Chu Xiaobai was indeed getting better and it was very obvious. Perhaps Xiaobai is too tired so he wants to have a good rest. I don't know how long it has been since he could rest like this without any worries, so let him sleep. This one is very envious of him, being able to have such a good sleep. After he said this, he said in a soft voice, "Xiaobai, this one really hopes that you can wake up soon, get well soon and return to this one's side. There have been many things that have happened recently that have made this one very tired. If you were by this one's side, you would be able to solve many of this one's worries. But this one's thoughts are too selfish. You have been working hard for the royal family these past few years, it has been very hard on you. Now you should rest well and this one will come visit you often." Chu Xiaobai quietly laid there, not even moving his eyelashes, sleeping very soundly. Mo Chuan silently stood in front of the bed for a while. When he heard the door to the next room open with a zhi sound, he slowly walked out. Chen Ning pushed Gu Qingze to the door and bumped into Mo Chuan. "Mo Chuan, is Xiaobai awake?" Chen Ning asked. Mo Chuan shook his head and coldly looked at Gu Qingze. "Why don't you ask your master? He should know Xiaobai's matter better than anyone else." Gu Qingze acted like he did not hear anything as he said to Chen. He said to Chen, Xiaobai, do you want me to personally make a move? I've memorized all of them. Master, there's no need to trouble you with such a small matter. I can handle it myself. Mo Chin said with a chin. She looked up and apologetically looked at Mo Chuan because Mo Chuan's expression was very ugly. She knew that Gu Qingze was deliberately ignoring him. So I don't know if these two people are born to be enemies. As soon as they meet, the atmosphere is not right. It's like a needle against an awl, full of gunpowder. Xiao King T, Qin King of Minister Long, King of Xiao Chuan Mo and said. Xiao Qin Xiao. Chapter 1287. Chen Ning knew that Gu Qingze was not in a good mood when she heard this. She looked at Mo Chuan and saw that a storm was brewing. She stuck out her tongue and decided to separate the two of them as soon as possible. Mo Chuan, let's go. Master, I'll leave Xiaobai to you. She did not dare stay any longer. If Gu Qingze was not happy and blurted out the matter of her going to the godly Dr. Valley, then Mo Chuan would even have the heart to swallow her alive. Gu Qingze gave a non-committal snort. Mo Chuan's expression did not look any better. He was the ruler of a country, but this Gu Qingze did not seem to have an emperor in his eyes. He had never bowed to him, not even addressing him respectfully, completely disregarding him. If it was anyone else, perhaps they would have already given the order to chop off his head. Mo Chuan thought that he was already magnanimous enough towards Gu Qingze. As long as he did not touch his reverse scale, he could tolerate anything else. Speaking of this, although Gu Qingze was arrogant and rude, he had silently done several things that were beneficial to him. Just based on these things, Mo Chuan would not do anything to him. Chen Ning quickly pulled Mo Chuan out of Dr. Zhang's palace. Mo Chuan noticed that she had taken a bulging bag from Gu Qingze and was carrying it on her back, looking very careful. "What's in this bag? I'll help you take it." He reached out to take it, but she dodged to the side. "No need, no need. This bag isn't heavy at all, I'll carry it myself." She smiled at him, but Mo Chuan could not smile at all. His face was as cold as ice. What was in the bag that was worth her protecting it like a treasure, not even letting him touch it? Once she returned to the palace, Chen Ning immediately went into her bedroom and opened the large bag in her bag. Mo Chuan stood on the side and saw her take out bottles and boxes from the bag. There were also some strange things that he had never seen before and he didn't know what they were for. A strange feeling filled his heart. Did Gu Qingze give her all these random things? He casually picked up a box and weighed it in his hand. He felt that it was not heavy at all, so he opened it. "No. Don't open it no matter what." Chen Ning saw it and gave a surprised cry, stealing the box from his hand. Mo Chuan's face turned even darker. "I can't even touch the things he gave you?" he said in a cold voice, resisting the urge to smash these things into pieces. The jealousy in his voice could not be concealed. Chen Ning was a bit stunned. Looking up at him, she noticed that his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. She had been thinking about Gu Qingze's words on the road, repeating them over and over again, not noticing Mo Chuan's expression at all. At this time she realized that Mo Chuan had completely misunderstood. If she didn't explain it clearly, Ning Ning would be Mo Chuan. Mo Chuan's heart. "Ning Ning Ning Ning," Mo Ning said, "Ning." Qing Ning was Ning's words. "Am I thinking too much, or did he give me too many things? I never knew that you liked these kinds of things. I gave you a present, but you didn't even look at it." Mo gave. "What is it?" Chen Ning opened her eyes wide and looked at him in surprise. Chapter 1288. He knew that she didn't notice it at all, but she really didn't know. What she didn't know was that the entire Guan Osprey Palace was personally designed by him. The bed, the table, even the vase, and even the clothes in the wardrobe were all personally chosen by him. Only he knew how much thought he had put into this Guan Osprey Palace. He didn't want to tell her all of this, he just wanted her to be happy. If she said, "This vase is really pretty," he would be secretly happy in his heart and be happy for the entire day. If she casually said, "Why is this teapot so strange?" then the teapot would disappear the next day, and a new teapot would appear. There was also the jewelry box on the dresser. Each piece of jewelry was carefully chosen by him for her. He knew that she didn't like gaudy things, so each piece of jewelry was very delicate, like it was a work of art. But no matter how beautiful or good the jewelry was, she never looked at it. She let the jewelry he chose for her be covered in a thick layer of dust. He saw all of this, and although he was disappointed, he didn't say anything. He just kept putting small gifts in different places in the room every day, hoping to attract her attention and receive a pleasantly surprised sigh from her. But there was nothing. He spent so much effort, but she didn't even look at it in her eyes. But that pile of messy things that Gu Qingze gave her, she treated it like a treasure, not even allowing herself to touch it. Mo Chuan felt more and more indignant the more he thought about it. He suddenly picked up a wooden box on the table and quickly opened it. Humph, not letting him touch it, not letting him look at it. He wanted to see what kind of amazing treasures this surnamed Gu had given her. Mo Chuan, don't! Chen Ning cried out in shock. She wanted to stop him, but it was too late. How could she be faster than Mo Chuan? She could only watch as Mo Chuan opened the lid of the wooden box and saw Mo Chuan's eyes instantly pop out. This. Mo Chuan's hand trembled and the wooden box fell to the ground with a paw sound. A long snake that looked like a spotted ribbon fell out of the box. His eyes stared right at the long snake. His back was stiff and it was like his acupuncture point had been poked. Although he could tell with a single glance that this was a dead snake, the deep-rooted fear and disgust in his heart almost made him lose control of his emotions. I told you not to open it, but you insisted on opening it. I just didn't want you to see this. Now that you've seen it, are you regretting it? Chen Ning pursed her lips. Seeing Mo Chuan become like a puppet, she found it both funny and angry. Why did he give this thing to you? Mo Chuan swallowed his saliva before he could say anything. As the saying goes, once bitten by a snake, twice shy. Not long ago he had personally witnessed the scene of her being bitten by a poisonous snake, so when he saw the snake, his whole body tensed up like a bow. This is called the many-banded kite, one of the top 10 poisonous snakes in the world. This is a very rare treasure. Ning smiled as she bent down. She picked up the dead many-banded kite and placed it back into the box, closing the lid. All right, little snake is gone. She giggled as she spoke to him in a coaxing tone. She even stuck out her tongue and made a face at him. Chapter 1289. He always had a cold expression on his face, rarely showing any lively expressions. But when he saw the snake, his expression completely changed. Ning couldn't help wanting to tease him. Mo Chuan glared at her and then his eyes fell onto the unopened boxes on the side. All of these are those things? He pointed at them with a lingering fear, but he did not dare open any of the boxes. Those things, what are they? Ning revealed a smile. She couldn't help teasing him, so she picked up a box and sent it over to him. Do you want to open it and see? Mo Chuan looked like he had seen a monster. He suddenly took a step back and stared at Ning. I'm not looking. Ning said with a smile, the white-browed viper in this box has 2 white eyebrows and is ranked 5th among the 10 most poisonous snakes. This snake is very poisonous, but it is already dead and won't bite people, so you don't need to be nervous. Who says I'm nervous? I hate snakes. Mo Chuan raised his chin and forced himself to calm down. Alright. You don't like these snakes, but I like them a lot. Each snake in here is very rare. I don't know where my master found all these treasures, but he actually generously gave them all to me. She stroked the wooden box and revealed a look of gratitude. Mo Chuan couldn't help saying, Ning, you've just been bitten by a snake, aren't you afraid of these things? Ning gave a poochy laugh and said, why would I be afraid? They are all dead. Not to mention that they are dead and can't bite me. Even if they were alive, I wouldn't need to be afraid. Did you forget that my master gave me 100 poison-resistant spirit rhinoceros pill? Your master, can you not mention those 3 words? Mo Chuan finally couldn't take it anymore and shouted. Right now, his ears were filled with the 3 words my master. As soon as he heard these 3 words, Gu Qing's eccentric face would appear before his eyes, causing him to be unable to vent his anger. He didn't like Gu Qingza. He didn't like him at all. He even felt annoyed just hearing his name. Alright, I won't mention it. Mo Chuan, can you leave first, Ning reached out and pushed him out the door. Mo Chuan was even more unhappy. He stood there without moving as if his feet were rooted to the ground. Why do you want to chase me away? His face clearly had the word unhappy written on it. Ning angrily and amusingly stomped her foot. Alright, I won't chase you away, but when you see what I'm going to do, you can't be afraid. Mo Chuan gave a cold laugh. I've never known fear. Well, stay here then, but don't make a noise to disturb me. He replied. He sat down in the chair and looked at her. Ning took out all the things in her bag and placed them on the table in an orderly manner. She thought about it for a bit before taking out a red lacquered wooden box and opening it. The moment the box was opened, Mo Chuan's back couldn't help turning stiff. Fortunately, it wasn't a poisonous snake in the box, but a lifelike giant centipede. It was red and black, and one could tell at a glance that it was poisonous. Mo Chuan the spirit at Gu. What the hell was this Gu Qingza doing? Why did he send so many venomous insects and poisonous things to her? Chapter 1290. This centipede is called a red dragon centipede and its poison is 10 times stronger than normal centipedes. Mo Chuan, do you know where this centipede's poison is? Ning took out the red dragon centipede and placed it on the table. She looked up at Mo Chuan with a faint smile as she asked this. How could Mo Chuan know? He didn't want to know at all. Although he was not afraid of centipedes, seeing that the centipede's curved body was similar to a snake's, his heart felt numb. How could this girl's courage be this big? Holding this kind of poisonous thing, her expression did not change at all. She even had a smile on her face as if what she was holding was a rare treasure. However, perhaps these poisonous snakes and centipedes were rare treasures in her eyes. This was because when she saw these poisonous snakes, her eyes sparkled. She was even more excited than when she saw jewelry or rouge. It was a good thing that Ning did not need him to answer. She took out a small knife and cut off the front legs of the centipede in a very skilled manner. Many people's expressions change when they mention centipedes, thinking that their entire body is poisonous, but this is a mistake. The centipede's poison is mainly concentrated in its head, or more accurately, its front legs. Cutting off a centipede's head, not only is it not poisonous, its body is actually a delicacy. Emo Chuan, have you eaten fried centipede meat before? Chen Ning dealt with the poison sac on the centipede's front legs while explaining in detail to Emo Chuan. Emo Chuan's expression kept changing and his lips kept twitching. I've never eaten it before, he said in a stiff voice as he stared at the red and black centipede. He was thinking that even if he died, he wouldn't eat this ugly and disgusting poisonous centipede. Chen Ning poured the poison from the poison sac into a small crystal bowl. Hearing Emo Chuan's strange voice, she looked up at him and saw him staring at the centipede with a look of disgust. She couldn't help pursing her lips into a smile. After she dealt with the poison sac, she walked over and used a small knife to cut off the centipede's head. She gently peeled off the outer shell, revealing the snow-white meat. If this centipede meat is fried and mixed with spices, it would be an incomparable delicacy. The more poisonous the centipede is, the more delicious its meat is. It's a pity that this kind of red dragon centipede is hard to come by, otherwise I could fry several dozen of them for you to eat and you wouldn't be able to stop eating. She regretfully placed the centipede meat to the side and then gave a sigh. Although the centipede meat was snow-white and looked very pretty, Emo Chuan's heart was still a bit scared. He did not have any interest in eating centipedes at all. Ning, is this grass poisonous? Emo Chuan moved his attention away from the centipede and looked at her busy hands. At this time she was holding a stalk of hay in her hand, and was grinding it into powder in the stone mill. This kind of grass is called delphinium. It is not poisonous, but everything in the world is mutually exclusive. When the originally harmless delphinium meets the venom of the red dragon centipede, it will produce a miraculous effect. Chen Ning explained with a faint smile. Some of this knowledge came from her memory palace and some was just passed on to her by Gu Qingze. For example, the formula of the medicine she was concocting right now had miraculous effects that she had never heard of before. Oh, what effect will there be? Emo Chuan's eyes filled with interest. Looking at Emo Chuan, who was like a curious baby, Chen Ning raised her brows and smiled. Chapter 1291. Emo Chuan looked at her strange eyes and shivered. He shook his head without even thinking and said, "This is bad." Chen Ning began to giggle. She took out an incense burner and opened the lid. She threw in a normal-looking gray herb and lit it on fire. Emo Chuan thought that she was burning incense, so he didn't mind. The incense burner released a faint white smoke that filled the room. A slightly spicy smell filled his nose and Emo Chuan couldn't help sneezing twice. "Ning, what are you burning? Is it poisonous?" "This is ginger." Don't tell me you don't even know ginger?" She looked at him with a teasing smile. "Who says I don't know it?" Emo Chuan's face turned slightly red and he turned his head away. Chen Ning did not say anything else and just stared at the incense burner, occasionally sprinkling some powder inside. Emo Chuan felt it was more and more strange. He didn't know what she was doing, but he knew that even if he asked, she wouldn't tell him. Not long from now he would know the answer to this mystery. After a while, the fire in the burner was extinguished. Chen Ning opened the lid and gathered the remaining powder inside before looking up at Emo Chuan. "I'm going to extract the venom from those snakes now. Do you want to stay here and watch?" As soon as her voice fell, it was like Emo Chuan's but had been stabbed. He jumped up with a so sound and disappeared in front of her. Chen Ning looked at the two doors that were still shaking and she couldn't help bending over in laughter. Emo Chuan stood at the door and heard her silver bell-like laughter. He gritted his teeth in hate. This little girl, she actually dared to laugh at him. Humph, once she's done, see how he'll take care of her. Chen Ning closed the door and returned to the room. She followed the method Gu Qingze taught her and began to concentrate on her work. Emo Chuan could hear rustling sounds coming from the room, but he couldn't guess what she was busy with. Suddenly, his ears moved and he looked at the door to the yard. Reporting to the emperor, this subordinate has found Jue Feng. A secret guard appeared in the shadows at the door and respectfully replied. "Where is he?" Emo Chuan knit his brows. "Jue Feng he is currently bathing." The secret guard hesitated before replying. "Bathing?" Emo Chuan almost suspected that he had heard wrong. After a pause he said, "Have him come see this one." Immediately. Immediately. His voice was already very strict. This damn Jue Feng, he had been by his side for so many years, but he couldn't even tell what was important, actually rushing to take a bath at this time. Emo Chuan could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. Yes. The shadow guard agreed and hurriedly retreated. After a while there was a wet person in the yard. He looked as if he had just been fished out of the river. Water was dripping from head to toe, and his clothes were clinging tightly to his body. He looked extremely battered. If it wasn't for Emo Chuan's sharp eyes, he wouldn't have believed that this drenched fellow was the meticulously combed Jue Feng. Jue Feng, what happened? Jue Feng? Emo Chuan's brows knit together. There seemed to be a stench in the air that was becoming thicker and thicker. He sniffed and found that the smell was coming from Jue Feng. This subordinate. Jue Feng's head was lowered and his voice was low, filled with indescribable frustration. Chapter 1292. Hearing this, Jue Feng's face instantly turned red to his ears. Yes, it's this subordinate's incompetence, falling for someone else's trap. He was filled with shame. Emo Chuan had just casually said this, he never thought that he would guess correctly. He was stunned for a bit, and seeing Jue Feng's head almost touching the ground, he knew that he was filled with shame, so he did not ask any more. You can leave first. Come see this one after you're clean. Yes, thank you, Emperor. Jue Feng flew away like he had been granted amnesty. His heart was filled with shame and anger, almost breaking his teeth from gritting them. This time he could be said to have gained nothing. No, the only thing he gained was the stench of a manure pit. Jue Feng had always thought that his tracking skills were unparalleled in the world. Although he did not boast in front of Qin Ning, he was filled with confidence. This was because he had found a clue left behind by the killer in the corner of the wall, so he followed this clue. His tracking was not very smooth, as the traces left behind by the killer would disappear at times. If it wasn't for the handkerchief he found in Xiao Ru's room and smelling it from time to time, he would have lost track of the killer several times. Just like this, the more he went, the more remote it was, but Jue Feng was filled with confidence. This meant that he was not chasing in the wrong direction. The killer had kidnapped Xiao Ru, so he must have hidden her in an isolated place. This kind of place was the safest. At the end of the road there was a large house. The white walls and black tiles were very eye-catching. Under the white wall, Jue Feng found a shallow footprint and an earring. The smell on it was the same as Xiao Ru's handkerchief. Jue Feng could immediately determine that the killer had kidnapped Xiao Ru and jumped over the wall. Even like this, the cautious Jue Feng did not dare enter. He leaned against the wall and pricked up his ears to listen. He suddenly heard a young girl's throat let out an ah cry. The sound was short and it was quickly covered by someone. That sound seemed to be Xiao Ru's. Jue Feng did not have time to think as he jumped onto the wall. He saw a figure flash in front of him and disappear in the blink of an eye. He immediately jumped down and chased after that figure. Who would have thought that with a pu sound, his feet would step into something soft and he would smell a stench? Jue Feng immediately realized this was bad and wanted to get up, but he saw a bucket of manure fall from the sky above his head. That bucket was filled to the brim, and before it even fell, the contents of the bucket had already soaked him. The stench filled the air and his face was covered in manure water. He could not even open his eyes. He only heard a low and melodious voice come from above his head. Humph, what number one hidden guard is only. This time I'll teach you a small lesson. There's plenty of time in the future. We'll have plenty of time to play. The voice slowly faded and could no longer be heard. Jue Feng was stuck in the manure pit and he wanted to curse out in anger, but when he opened his mouth, the filth was poured into his mouth. He could only tightly close his mouth and swallow this grievance. Jue, Zhi He Feng Su. He. Zhi, Zhi Feng. Jue Feng's heart couldn't help sinking. Could it be that he, the dignified number one hidden guard of the emperor, was going to be buried in a manure pit? Chapter 1293. This was the biggest humiliation Jue Feng had ever suffered in his life. Jue Feng used a towel to scrub his skin while hating the fellow that made him fall into the manure pit. At this moment, Zhao Rong Princess was sent back to the Duke Ning Palace by Empress Dowager Zhou. Empress Dowager Zhou wanted her to stay in the palace to recover, but Zhao Rong was stubborn and insisted on returning to the palace, so Empress Dowager Zhou could only give up. Although she reaped what she sowed, seeing her limping, Empress Dowager Zhou's heart filled with pity. So she ordered Su Jin to send Zhao Rong back in her sedan. Zhao Rong's heart was filled with pride, but her face was filled with gratitude and shame. She had an ashamed look on her face. She came down from the sedan and returned to her back garden. The weeping beauty on her face was swept away and her eyebrows knit together. She casually crushed a flower as her eyes filled with hatred. Damn fox spirit. You ruined my good matter, this princess hates you to death. Just you wait, I definitely won't let this go. The empress position will be mine sooner or later. Cousin is also mine. She was filled with rage as she tore the flowers in front of her into a mess of petals. Suddenly, a graceful and melodious voice rang out behind her. Tiske, who made her highness so angry? This kind of ruthless flower technique isn't bad. Zhao Rong princess' body froze and the hand that was tearing the flowers stopped in the air. She suddenly turned around and saw a red robe fluttering in front of her. That face that could be called a calamity was right in front of her. A pair of narrow phoenix eyes slightly narrowed as he carefully looked at her. The thousand-faced young master has graced us again. Have you completed your mission? Where is that fox spirit's head? Zhao Rong princess coldly said as she reached out her hand. She had eaten a stomach full of anger in the palace. What should have been a good thing had been taken advantage of by Qin Ning, causing her to lose everything. She had lost all her face and thrown it all the way to her grandmother's house. If it wasn't for Empress Dowager Zhou protecting her, she would have already been punished by Mo Chuan. At the same time, she would have lost all her face and wouldn't be able to stay in the capital city. In the end, all of this was given to her by Qin Ning, so she couldn't help but hate Qin Ning to the bone. Princess, what are you so anxious for? Has the thing this young master gave you been used yet? The red-clothed young master said with a smile. Zhao Rong princess suddenly thought of the bag of powder he gave her which was still in her arms. She took it out and saw that the entire packet of powder had turned red and was filled with a pungent and spicy smell. Thinking about how Qin Ning had splashed pepper water on her and how the powder had been soaked, she couldn't help gritting her teeth. The powder is wet. Can it still be used? It's wet. The red-clothed young master was slightly startled. He then shook his head and said, "Throw it away. It is useless. If the princess still wants to play this game, I still have a bag of powder here." Zhao princess, he took out a paper bag and placed it in his palm. Princess Zhao Rong's eyes lit up and she stretched out her hand to take it. However, the man in red closed his palms, and she grabbed nothing but air. "I'll give you the medicinal powder from last time. This time I'll have to collect some interest. How much silver does it cost?" Zhao Rong princess stared at his right palm. His slender fingers were as white as jade, they were even more beautiful and white than the fingers of a noble lady. Chapter 1294. Zhao Rong region princess had never seen a man with such a devastatingly beautiful and peerless appearance. He was like a demon in the mortal world. Especially the evil air between his brows, it filled him with an indescribable charm. However, Zhao Rong region princess thought about it and realized that the face she saw was fake. "I do not want silver." The red-robed man shook his head. "Then what do you want?" The red-robed man rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "I want to borrow a room from the princess." "Borrow a room?" Zhao Rong region princess was surprised. She then noticed that there was a gunny sack under the feet of the red-robed man. It seemed to have a person inside. Her eyes instantly brightened. "Is that the little bitch inside?" "No." The red-robed man shook his head again. Zhao Rong region princess was instantly disappointed. "Okay. My house does not lack rooms. You can have any room you want. Doing business with Her Highness is such a pleasure." The red-robed man smiled evilly and threw the powder to Zhao Rong region princess. He picked up the gunny sack and walked into one of the rooms. He opened the door and walked in, closing the door with a bang. Zhao Rong region princess stared at the tightly closed door and suddenly became curious. She took a deep breath and tiptoed closer. Then she perked up her ears and listened to the movements in the room. The door suddenly opened from the inside. Zhao Rong region princess was caught off guard and almost fell inside. "Princess, is there something else?" The red-robed man stood at the door. His red robe was like fire and his eyes seemed to be emitting evil fire. Being stared at with such a strange gaze, Zhao Rong region princess felt flustered. She was so nervous that she could not speak. She swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, "I forgot one thing." "Oh, what is it?" The red-robed man raised an eyebrow and the evil on his face became even stronger. Zhao Rong Juanju's heart jumped. She forced herself to calm down and said, "When I entered the palace today, I discovered that the person who made the deal with you and that little slut, the vixen, are the same person. These two deals are clearly one. Young Master Thousand Faces, don't tell me you still want to take two payments from me?" "The same person?" The eyes of the man in red flickered for a moment, then he said as if nothing had happened, "But the princess has made two requests. Even if you want to kill the same person according to the rules of the Purple Heaven Pavilion, you still have to pay the due reward. Not to mention for the second reward, all I want is a promise from Duke Ning. The princess will not go back on her word, right? You know what the Purple Cloud Pavilion does to people who do not keep their word. You will not go back on your word." His eyes squinted and revealed a sharp glint. Zhao Rong Junju felt a chill run down her spine as she recalled that bloody and terrifying scene. The man in red in front of her had turned her servant girls into a pool of blood with just a wave of his hand. He was truly terrifying to the extreme. "All right, I won't go back on my word. I can still afford to pay you twice." She gritted her teeth and glared at the man in red. "But you have to give me a deadline. When can you bring me that bitch's head?" "Princess, you can't wait any longer?" "Yes, I can't wait any longer. I want to chop that bitch into meat paste and feed her to the dogs," Zhao Rong region princess said hatefully. Chapter 1295. I've heard that the thousand-faced young master is the best assassin in the Purple Heaven Pavilion and has never failed before. Is there a mission that you can't complete? The Zhao Rong princess tried to provoke him. The red-clothed young master was not angry as he softly said, "This young master has never failed, and it is because of this that I have to make a move with 100% certainty. She has a top expert by her side, so it is hard for this young master to find a good chance to make a move. This young master has never fought a battle without preparation, so when the time is right, this young master will naturally make a move." "Then how long do you want this princess to wait?" The Zhao Rong princess impatiently shouted. The red-clothed young master's tone suddenly changed. "I've heard that in a few days it will be the princess consort's 16th birthday. At that time, Empress Dowager Zhou will be celebrating your birthday in the palace, so it will be a very lively scene. In this kind of lively scene, does the princess not want to let this thorn in your side put on a good show in front of everyone?" "Put on a good show?" The Zhao Rong princess looked at him in confusion. "Did you forget what the bag of medicine this young master gave you was for?" The red-clothed young master gave an evil smile. The Zhao Rong princess suddenly came to her senses. Opening her palm to look at the bag of medicine, she couldn't help smiling at the red-clothed young master. "The thousand-faced young master is truly strong. If it wasn't for you reminding this princess would have missed the chance to watch a good show. All right, I'll let this little slut live for a few more days. On this princess' birthday, this princess will make the Empress lose face in front of everyone and make her lose all face. I'll make her unable to raise her head in front of my cousin and make her the laughingstock of everyone," the red-clothed young master said with a smile. "Isn't this more interesting than letting her die?" "It truly is interesting. On that day, this princess wants to see if she has the face to sit on the Empress throne. The Empress throne will fall on this princess' head sooner or later. At that time, this princess will torture her however I want. How could this princess be willing to let her die early?" The Zhao Rong princess revealed a sinister smile. The princess consort really is smart. When the princess has played enough of this game, this young master will naturally take care of her. I wonder if the princess is satisfied with this result? Satisfied. Of course I'm satisfied. Your method is indeed more effective than killing her with a single stab of the knife to dispel my anger. The Zhao Rong princess narrowed her eyes. Thinking of Chen Ning falling into her hands, the smile on her face became even wider. That's right, she hated her this much. If she directly took her head, wouldn't that be too easy for her? She wanted to torture her mercilessly. She wanted to use all the methods she could think of to torture her. She wanted her to beg for death, but she couldn't. She knew that there were a lot of methods like this. She would slowly try them on that slut and play with her slowly. The more Zhao Rong Junju thought about it, the more pleased she became. She turned and left. She suddenly turned around and looked at the face of the man in red. She asked, "Young Master Thousand Faces, why do I suddenly feel that you hate that bitch more than I do? She has something between you? If it is, then this princess, this princess, this you?" Chapter 1296. No need, this princess wants to play with her. If I don't torture her enough, this princess won't let her die. Thousand-faced young master, I believe that other than this bag of powder, you have many other good things. As long as you can make that cheap woman lose face, you can name a price. No matter how much it is, this princess can pay for it." The Zhao Rong princess said in a rich voice. The red-clothed young master's eyes narrowed as he smiled and nodded. "Making the guests satisfied is the goal of my Purple Heaven Pavilion. As long as the princess can pay, this young master does have many good things. Other than that, there is another piece of good news. I believe the princess will be very happy after hearing it." "What good news?" The Zhao Rong group's leader's eyes lit up. While the princess was in the palace, this young master also went to the palace. The red-clothed young master took out a fan from who knows where and began to fan himself in a leisurely manner. Actually, it was the beginning of May and the weather was cool, so there was no need to use a fan at all. However, he still took out a fan to put on an act. The Zhao Rong princess did not pay attention to his act at all. Her attention was completely focused on the matter of him entering the palace. "What did you do in the palace?" she asked with a nervous expression. The man in red smiled at her in a leisurely manner and winked at her. "Of course it is to help the princess vent her anger." His smile was very charming. Even if the Zhaorong princess was deeply in love with Mo Chuan, seeing this kind of peerless smile, her heart still skipped a beat and her breathing became fast. She calmed herself and took a step back. She cursed in her heart, "Evildoer." A dignified man wearing a mask that was prettier than a woman, he was simply sick. She was cursing in her heart, but her face was filled with interest. "How did you take revenge for this princess? Did you ruin that cheap vixen's face?" When the Zhaorong princess thought of Qin Ning's face that was even more beautiful than the red-clothed young master in front of her, she gritted her teeth in hatred. It was because she had this kind of face that her cousin's eyes were mesmerized. Her cousin protected her like this, not even looking at her once. Ruin her face? This kind of interesting game is suitable for Her Highness. This young master is going to give her a small warning, and conveniently take away one of her most beloved things. The red-clothed young master gave a harmless smile, but his eyes flashed with a cold light. "What warning? What did you bring back?" Zhaorong Juanju's interest was piqued. She couldn't help but take a step forward and look at the sack in the corner of the room. She thought to herself that it must be the thing that the bitch fox spirit loved the most. Her hands were itching to move, and she couldn't wait to personally tear the thing inside to pieces. This young master killed all of the palace maids and eunuchs in Guan Osprey Palace and cut off their heads. Your Highness didn't see that scene. It was very interesting. I believe that the woman you hate the most must have seen this scene as well. She must also be very shocked, said the red-clothed young master with a smile as he waved his fan. He talked about beheading people as if he was stepping on an ant. Princess Zhaorong was also shocked. She looked at him in shock. You killed everyone in Guan Osprey Palace? Chapter 1297. The Zhaorong princess bit her lips. She couldn't tell if she was happy or afraid. She felt that the person in front of her was as terrifying as a demon from hell. He had killed so many people without any reason, but the people he had killed were people from Guan Osprey Palace, which made her feel very satisfied. She hated that she couldn't kill anyone that was related to Qin Ning. Very good, this princess is very happy hearing this. Many thanks to this young master for taking revenge for me. What about that little girl? Did you kill her too? The Zhaorong princess' eyes flashed with a dark look. She remembered that Qin Ning had a talkative girl by her side. It would be best if he killed that girl as well. She was Qin Ning's most trusted person, so if she died, Qin Ning's heart would be filled with pain. That little girl, she's in this sack. The red-clothed young master pointed at the corner with his lips. So it's her. The Zhaorong princess' heart filled with joy and she quickly stepped forward. This princess wants this little girl. Name a price, this princess will give it to you no matter how much silver you want. Ha ha, as long as this little girl falls into this princess' hands, I'm not afraid that that fox spirit won't beg for mercy from this princess. Ha ha ha. But before that, this princess will interrogate this stinky girl and have her tell me everything that happened to that fox spirit when she seduced my cousin. You can't. The red-clothed young master suddenly stood in front of her. He closed the fan in his hand and tapped the back of her hand. This was brought back by this young master. This young master still has a use for her. If the princess wants to take revenge, it will be your birthday in a few days. Wouldn't it be better for you to find the one? That fan was cold to the bone. When it touched the back of the Zhaorong princess' hand, it penetrated her skin and made her shiver. She quickly pulled back her hand and saw that there was a red dot on the back of her hand. She was scared out of her wits and said in a trembling voice, What poison did you put on the back of my hand? She thought about how this red-clothed young master had turned her maids into pools of blood and how he had killed so many people in Qin Ning's palace. Now that he was covered in poison, she couldn't help trembling in fear. Poison? The red-clothed young master was a bit surprised, but then he began to laugh like a flower. This young master's treasures are all precious, I would never randomly sell them. Not to mention that the princess is my guest, how could this young master offend a guest? After he said this, his smile disappeared. If the princess doesn't have any other business, then please leave. This young master is of the Zhao family. After his expression turned cold, it was as if his face was covered with a layer of frost. It was even scarier than when he was smiling. Zhaorong Junju gritted her teeth and couldn't help but say, All right, I still have a business to do. I want the person in the sack. Any price is fine. The young man in red was unmoved. He said calmly, "She belongs to me. She is not part of the business. Princess, please." With a wave of his red sleeve, a gust of wind flew out and pushed Zhao Rong Junju out the door. Then the two doors closed with a bang. The Zhao Rong princess could not stand still and had to take several steps back to stabilize herself. She bitterly glared at the closed doors and forcefully stomped her feet. Although her heart was unwilling, she did not dare knock on the doors. She glared at the doors a few more times before returning to her room filled with resentment. Chapter 1298. The inside of the sack was shaking like a sieve. It was clear that the person inside was very afraid. The red-clothed young master purposefully increased his footsteps as he walked towards the sack. With a gentle wave of his right hand, the rope tying the sack was cut, revealing a head with black hair. "Miss Xiaoru, long time no see. How have you been?" The red-clothed young master flicked his finger and a gust of wind flew out. Xiaoru's acupuncture point was instantly unsealed. But before her acupuncture point was unsealed, she had shrunk into the sack without moving. Now that her hands and feet could move, she tightly held onto the sack and hid her head inside, not even peeking out. Seeing her like this, the smile on the red-clothed young master's face became even deeper. He waved his right sleeve again and a gust of wind blew past, turning the sack into pieces of cloth. "Ah!" Xiaoru let out a scream as she covered her eyes with her hands. Her body shrank back and her head was buried in her knees as she curled up like a shrimp. When she was in Guan Osprey Palace, she had personally seen this red-clothed young master descend from the sky. That enchanting smile was like that of an immortal, completely stunning her. But in the blink of an eye, this immortal young master began a massacre, killing everyone he saw. She didn't know what kind of demonic technique he used, but his fiery red sleeve was like a red cloud. With a gentle wave, a head would be sent flying into the air. None of the maids and eunuchs were spared. Blood flowed like a river. Xiaoru stared at this scene in a daze. The blood flowed through her feet and wet her shoes. She could almost feel that the blood was still warm. The entire Guan Osprey Palace was filled with a nauseating smell of blood. A nightmare. She must be having a nightmare. Xiaoru tightly closed her eyes and then opened them again. What she saw was a ground full of corpses and heads as well as a bright red color. Everyone had been decapitated, and she was the only one who was still alive. She suddenly let out a shrill scream and sprinted toward the palace gate. Terrifying, too terrifying. She needed to quickly find the young miss. She needed to tell the young miss not to return to Guan Osprey Palace. There was a terrifying murderous demon in the palace. Suddenly, her head collided with a hard object, and when she raised her head, she met the red-clothed youth's eyes that were soaked with blood. "Want to run?" The red-clothed young master revealed a bewitching smile, a smile that could topple a country. But in Xiaoru's eyes, it was like the face of a demon, incomparably terrifying. She let out a whimper as her vision darkened and she fainted. She didn't know what happened next. Xiaoru thought that it would be hard for her to escape death, but she slowly regained consciousness. She found that her acupuncture point had been sealed and she couldn't move. She was also trapped in a black sack. It was the demon young master. Sure enough, as soon as the sack opened, she saw a blood-red color in front of her, just like the blood stain that hadn't dried yet. She was filled with despair and fear. She curled her body into a ball. "The first time we met, you seemed to like me very much. You even hugged me and kissed me. Why is it that now that we meet again, Miss Xiaoru is afraid of this young master? What are you afraid? Are you afraid that I will hug and kiss you too?" The young master in red laughed and teased her. Xiaoru's ears perked up, thinking that she had heard wrong. What kind of nonsense was this red-clothed demon saying? She had never seen him before. When had she hugged him and even kissed him? Chapter 1299. Xiaoru buried her head in her knees. She decided to turn a deaf ear to the words of this demon that had gone mad. The red-clothed young master silently stared at her for a while. Then his bones began to make popping sounds. "Elder sister Xiaoru, Xiaobao is hungry and wants to eat sweets. You promised Xiaobao that you would buy sweets for Xiaobao to eat?" While Xiaoru was shivering, she suddenly heard a soft child's voice in her ears. That voice was soft and sticky, making her heart melt just by hearing it. "Xiaobao? Could it be that little white-eyed wolf is here again?" She looked up in bewilderment. Suddenly, a snow-white and cute face appeared in front of her eyes. He had a pair of large and round black eyes and an innocent and cute expression on his face. "Elder sister Xiaoru." Xiaobao opened his arms and threw himself into her embrace. He hugged her and even arched his head in her embrace. Xiao Ru was completely stunned. Xiao Bao? She stuttered as her eyes opened wide in disbelief. Then she reacted and began to push Xiao Bao away with all her might. Her round face was flushed with embarrassment. Little white-eyed wolf, stay away from me. You are not a little boy at all. You are that red-clothed demon. She remembered that Jue Feng had said that Xiao Bao had a very rare bone-shrinking technique. Although he looked like a 5 or 6-year-old boy, he was actually a man over 20 years old. Especially the Xiao Bao in front of her. Although he had a pure and cute face, he was wearing the red robe of the red-clothed young master. His little body was wearing the clothes of an adult. It was as strange as it could be. If she couldn't even recognize him like this, then her eyes would have grown in vain. Xiao Bao gave a chuckle as he tightly held onto her slender waist. Although his figure was small, his strength was unexpectedly large. Xiao Ru used all her strength, but she couldn't push his 2 slender arms away. Little demon, little white-eyed wolf. Let go of me, let go of me. Save me, save me. Xiao Ru desperately struggled as she screamed out. Although she knew that the other side was an adult man, seeing the face of a 5 or 6-year-old boy, she couldn't help adding the word little. Good elder sister, don't you like me a lot? You even promised to buy me delicious cakes and fruits, so why are you afraid of me now? It's not like I'm going to eat you, he. The red-clothed young master who looked like Xiao Bao looked up from her embrace and giggled as he winked at her. All the hairs on Xiao Ru's body stood up and her body began to tremble even more violently. Little demon, you, what are you doing? Let me go. No, otherwise kill me. Little sister, how could I bear to kill you? You are that pretty sister's favorite. If you die, pretty sister will be very sad. Xiao Ru's heart suddenly trembled and tears began to fall from her eyes. Xiao Bao to say, Xiao Bao. Chapter 1300. Xiao Ru was suddenly no longer afraid and she stopped trembling. She didn't know where the strength came from, but she suddenly pushed him away and stared at him. Xiao Bao was obviously very surprised, but then his smiling face changed color, and his eyes flashed with a blade-like light. Very good, you didn't mention what happened last time. This young master had already planned to forget about it, but you just had to bring it up. This young master's principle is to pay back what you pay back. Since you're this happy, then fine. If this young master doesn't take revenge, wouldn't that be unfair to you? He gave a cold laugh and took a deep breath. The bones in his body began to crack again and his entire body began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. Xiao Ru's eyes almost popped out. She watched as the boy in front of her turned into a tall and slender man. Her mouth was wide open and she couldn't close it no matter what. The red-clothed young master gave a cold laugh and said to himself, "Look at this stupid face, he's actually that little girl's personal maid. If it wasn't for..." He suddenly stopped smiling and reached out his hand to Xiao Ru. "Last time you took off this young master's clothes, now it's this young master's turn to take off your clothes. Hey, how you treated me last time, this young master will treat you now. After I take off your clothes, I'll hang you on the city gate and let everyone see you naked. Isn't that interesting?" "No." Xiao Ru screamed out. Her heart was about to jump out of her chest. She was anxious, afraid, ashamed, and angry. She suddenly used all her strength to slam into the wall. If she had to endure this kind of humiliation, she would rather die right now. You want to die? Do you think it's that easy? Once you fall into this young master's hands, you won't be able to die even if you want to. The red-clothed young master gave a laugh and gently waved his sleeve. A gentle wind once again sealed Xiao Ru's acupuncture point. She couldn't move again. She could only be like a puppet at the mercy of this young master. You. Kill me, just kill me. Xiao Ru cried out in tears. She had gritted her teeth to not cry, but now she couldn't control her tears. Seeing her crystal-clear tears flowing down her cheeks, the red-clothed young master's cold heart did not move at all. Rather, he smiled even more happily. He was like a cat that had caught a mouse. The more painful the mouse was, the more excited he became. That slender white hand finally touched Xiao Ru's belt. With a gentle pull, her belt broke. Wah! Xiao Ru couldn't hold it in anymore. She began to cry as her tears fell like rain. The red-clothed young master was shocked, but then he began to smile. "Miss Xiao Ru, what are you afraid of? Firstly, I won't hit you, and secondly, I won't kill you. I'll just take off your clothes. Didn't you wear nothing when you were born?" he slowly said. And while he said Xiao Ru. As he spoke, he tore off one of her ribbons. Xiao Ru. Ru, Xiao Ti, Xiao Ru, if you answer me honestly then maybe I won't take off your clothes. The red-clothed young master picked up a piece of her clothes and looked at her crying face with a smile. What are you saying? Xiao Ru couldn't help sniffling. She raised her teary eyes. Chapter 1301. Whatever I ask you, you will honestly answer. If you tell a lie, what do you think will happen to me? The red-clothed young master's eyes looked over Xiao Ru's body with bad intentions. He found that although this little girl had a childish face, her figure was not bad. She was fat when she should be fat and thin when she should be thin. Although Xiao Ru did not understand the matters between men and women, when she saw his eyes fall on her body, she couldn't help getting goosebumps. It was like she was being stared at by something dirty. You can ask, she said in a trembling voice. That's good. Let me ask you, what does your young miss like the most? What places does she like to go? What things does she like? For example, eating, drinking, playing and having fun? What does she hate the most? What kind of people and things does she hate the most? Xiao Ru was stunned. Then she opened her eyes wide and looked at him with a vigilant expression. Why are you asking this? Why are you asking about my young miss matters? The red-clothed young master smiled and said, of course it's to prepare a large gift for your young miss. Since it's a gift, I have to give her what she likes and give her something she likes. If my gift makes her unhappy, then wouldn't my gift be for nothing? That's all you want to ask? Xiao Ru looked at him in a daze. Her face was filled with disbelief. That's right, aren't these questions very simple? You've served your young miss for so many years, so you should know what she likes and dislikes the most. As long as you honestly answer my questions, I'll let you go. You'll really let me go? Xiao Ru's eyes lit up. Of course. The red-clothed young master smiled and nodded. Xiao Ru lowered her head to think. The red-clothed young master slowly said, this young master's patience is not very good. If I count to 3 and you still don't speak, then this young master will not be polite to you. His hand tugged at one of her ribbons again. Xiao Ru suddenly looked up with a determined look on her face. I don't know. The red-clothed young master was surprised. After being stunned for a moment, he said, if you don't say it, then I'll take off your clothes. Xiao Ru raised her chin. You can do whatever you want to me, but don't even think about getting a single word about my young miss from my mouth. Do you think I'm stupid? You clearly have bad intentions and want to harm my young miss, so I won't tell you. If you want to ask me anything, I'll tell you, but I don't know anything about my young miss. She remembered that Chen Ning had told her the story of the old mister and the wolf. The red-clothed man in front of her was a true white-eyed wolf. The man in red was slightly surprised, and a haze flashed in his eyes. He said with a cold face, you really won't say? Ru Xiao 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 Ru. Although Xiao Ru was afraid, she still gathered her courage and loudly said, the young miss told me that in this world, it is impossible for a wolf to not eat a sheep. A wolf will sometimes put on a sheep's skin and pretend to be a sheep, but his goal is to confuse the sheep. When the sheep relaxes its guard, he will eat the sheep in one bite. Don't try to lie to me. I don't believe a single word you say. Chapter 1302. Alright, stinky girl, I was planning on letting you go, but you forced me to do this, so don't blame me. The red-clothed young master gave a fiendish laugh. He grabbed a piece of her clothes and forcefully tore it. Before the cloth fell to the ground, Xiao Ru had already fainted. The red-clothed young master was stunned. He looked down at the unconscious Xiao Ru and hatefully said, Stinky girl, your mouth is quite tough, but your courage is even smaller than a mouse's. Since Xiao Ru had fainted from fright, there was no need to scare her anymore. He pondered for a bit and then suddenly pulled out a dagger. He cut off a lock of Xiao Ru's hair and revealed a fiendish smile. With this girl in his hands, he wasn't afraid that he wouldn't be able to attract that crafty master behind her. Chen Ning busied herself all the way until the morning of the next day before finally finishing. She looked at the result of her work and revealed a confident smile. She carefully put away the treasure she had personally made. She stretched out and found that the sky outside was already bright and Mo Chuan hadn't come in all night. What was he busy with? She blew out the candle and opened the door to walk out. She found that there were several new maids and eunuchs in the yard, sweeping the yard. Greetings to the Empress. Everyone bowed when they saw her. At this time, the corpses and bloodstains had all been cleaned up, not leaving a single trace. The smell of blood had been replaced by the fragrance of flowers. But the bloody scene still appeared in front of Chen Ning's eyes and her heart filled with shock. She sucked in a breath and suppressed the strange emotions in her heart. She faintly asked, "What about the Emperor?" The emperor went to morning court. Before he left, he told us not to wake the empress. He also told the empress not to worry, it's safe here and no one will come to disturb the empress. A palace maid replied respectfully. Qinning nodded and looked around. She found that the new maids were just normal eunuchs and maids, they didn't look like martial arts experts. But she knew the meaning behind Mo Chuan's words. He was worried about her, worried that the assassins from Purple Heaven Pavilion would come back, but he was the ruler of a country. There were countless political matters that needed to be dealt with every day. He had to go to court every day, so he couldn't always stay by her side to protect her. So he must have transferred the secret guards over. Although she couldn't see a single person, she believed that the Guanyu Palace was surrounded by secret guards. After a busy night, she was indeed very tired. So she went back to her room and fell asleep. Although she was worried about Xiao Ru's safety, she knew that she was helpless. The only thing she could do was wait. Wait for the Purple Heaven Pavilion assassins to show themselves. Mo Chuan's analysis was very reasonable. If the murderer wanted to kill Xiao Ru, it would be very easy. Entering the palace to kill a person was much simpler than entering the palace to kidnap a person. If that assassin could go through so much trouble to kidnap Xiao Ru, then he definitely wouldn't take her life. He would use Xiao Ru to threaten her, so as long as she waited quietly, he would show himself sooner or later. She slept soundly and soundly. After an unknown amount of time, she finally had enough sleep. When she opened her eyes, she felt very satisfied. Suddenly, she was stunned as she stared in front of her in a daze. Mo Chuan, when did you come? Chapter 1303. Qinning also noticed that there were candles in the room, but the candles were in the corner, making it very dark. It must have been Mo Chuan's orders, not wanting the light to affect her sleep. Her face turned a little red. Thinking that her sleeping appearance was seen by Mo Chuan, she was a little shy. I've been here for a while. I wanted to eat with you, but I never thought that you would be this lazy, actually sleeping until now. Mo Chuan gave a gentle laugh and patted her butt through the blanket. Why aren't you getting up? The food is getting cold. Qinning stuck out her tongue in embarrassment and got off the bed. She saw that there were several exquisite dishes on the square table. Although they were cold, the fragrance still filled her nose. Since you're here, why didn't you wake me up? You were sleeping so soundly, how could I bear to wake you up? Mo Chuan reached out and held her in his embrace. He walked to the table and placed her on the chair. Eat, these are all your favorite dishes, so eat more. You little girl, you don't know how to take care of your body when I'm not here. You haven't eaten all day, right? Aren't you hungry? Qinning's stomach was indeed growling from hunger. Hearing this, she remembered that she really hadn't eaten anything all day, so she went to sleep right after. Mo Chuan placed a chopstick in front of her mouth. She revealed a faint smile and opened her mouth to eat. She said with a smile, I'm not a 3-year-old baby, I can eat by myself. She raised her chopsticks, but Mo Chuan reached out and flicked his chopsticks, breaking them in half. What do you mean by this? You don't want me to eat anymore? She was stunned. I'll feed you. Mo Chuan placed another chopstick in her mouth without saying anything. Qinning ate the food, but her eyes kept looking over Mo Chuan's face. Something was strange. She understood Mo Chuan too well. Although he was very good to her, he was still the emperor. He was used to having people serving him, so he was not used to serving others at all. Now he was actually feeding her with his own mouth. Something must have gone wrong. She didn't say anything. It was rare for Mo Chuan to take the initiative, so of course she would enjoy it. After eating her fill, Mo Chuan looked out the window and suggested, Do you want to go out and look at the moon? Look at the moon? She never knew that Mo Chuan had this kind of romantic thoughts before. It was clear that he had something to say to her. All right. Of course she nodded in agreement. The two of them walked hand in hand in the garden, breathing in the air with the fragrance of the flowers. It was refreshing. The moonlight was as soft as a veil, draping over the two's shoulders, covering their faces with a layer of hazy light. The fragrance of the flowers floated and the moonlight flowed like water. The surroundings were filled with peace. Everything in front of him made the bloody massacre yesterday seem so far away, as if it had happened in two different worlds. Neither of them spoke and they walked in silence for a while. Qinning Chuanchen. Qinning suddenly stopped. Chuan. Under the moonlight, she looked up at Mo Chuan. Her clear as water eyes became gentle because of the moonlight. Qin, let's say. Qin in Ning. Qin in. Chapter 1304. This was because Mo Chuan did not have any secrets in front of her. He had never been hesitant like he was today, not beating around the bush. Mo Chuan couldn't help letting out a sigh and pinching her nose. How are you so smart? I haven't even said anything and you can already see through it. Then guess what am I going to say to you? I'm not smart at all because I can't guess what you're going to say at all. She shook her head. Mo Chuan pondered for a bit and looked at her with a hesitant appearance. What is it? If you didn't want to tell me, you wouldn't have asked me out to see the moon. But since I've already come out, you should just say it. Chen Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes at him. Mo Chuan still did not say a word. Chen Ning's breathing stopped and she revealed a nervous expression. Did something happen to Xiaoru? Is there any news from Jue Feng? Or did you receive the news from the culprit? It's not Xiaoru. Mo Chuan finally slowly spat out a few words, allowing Chen Ning's heart to fall down from her throat. Then what is it? She asked again. Mo Chuan looked at her. Do you know that on the day of the Dragon Boat Festival, Mother is holding a banquet in the palace to celebrate Zhao Rong's birthday? Chen Ning nodded. I do. There were no walls in the palace that didn't have ears. Even if there was a bit of wind, it would be blown into her ears, not to mention this kind of grand event. Then do you know that Mother, she doesn't want you to appear at the banquet that night? Mo Chuan hesitated for a bit, but he still said it. He didn't want to say it because it made him feel like he was betraying Empress Dowager Zhou. But he knew that even if he didn't say it, she would find out sooner or later. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said in an uncaring voice, although I don't know, I can guess that the banquet was specially held for your cousin Zhao Rong. She was the main character of the banquet that day, so if I appeared, wouldn't I steal her limelight? So the Empress Dowager not wanting me to appear at that event is a reasonable matter. Since she doesn't want me to appear, then I won't appear. Pretending to be sick or something isn't a hard thing for me. She didn't want to see Zhao Rong's princess, but she never thought that the Empress Dowager Zhou would still protect her after knowing Zhao Rong's scheme against Mo Chuan. Since it was like this, she would rather not see it out of her mind. But Mother suddenly summoned me to the palace today. She told me again and again that you must appear that day. Mo Chuan shook his head and slowly said, You're saying that the Empress Dowager changed her mind? Chen Ning was a little surprised. Mo Chuan gave an sound and held her hand. Mother's heart has always been firm and never changes easily, so I suspect that something will happen at the palace banquet that day. It's best if you don't go. Chen Ning's eyes slightly turned and she thought for a moment before saying, You're right, the Empress Dowager's decision will not change. For the Empress Dowager to change her mind, there must be a special reason. However, since the Empress Dowager has said it, if I don't appear as the Empress, wouldn't it be a reason for others to criticize me? Chen of Mo of you said of this in of to two of Chen. To say I Chuan I to come of me of you. Of I, Mo of Chuan I Chen I. Chapter 1305. Mo Chuan thought of Empress Dowager Zhou's expression and his heart filled with a trace of vigilance. Although he couldn't guess Empress Dowager Zhou's thoughts, his intuition told him that the situation was bad. Relax, if the Empress Dowager really wants to make it hard for me, it doesn't count for anything. She is your elder and your mother, so no matter what she says or does, I will endure it. I won't embarrass her. Chen Ning said with a faint smile. You know that the one I'm worried about is you. Zhao Rong has Mother supporting her, so I'm afraid she will harm you. Mo Chuan stared at her. Then you don't need to worry. The Empress Dowager is my elder and I respect her, but what about Zhao Rong? If she dares to provoke me again, do you think I'm the kind of pitiful person who would endure being bullied by others? She revealed another smile. Ning, Mo Chuan knit his brows. He wanted to say something else, but Chen Ning cut him off. Mo Chuan, didn't you have Jue Feng follow Zhao Rong's princess? Is there any news? No, Jue Feng sent back news that after Zhao Rong returned to the Duke Ning Palace, she hasn't left. When Mo Chuan mentioned this, his heart filled with an indescribable anger. He clearly knew that the mastermind was Zhao Rong, but he couldn't do anything to her because he didn't have any evidence. If he told Empress Dowager Zhou about this matter now, he would be scolded by Empress Dowager Zhou. If Duke Ning found out about this, it would cause even more trouble. She hasn't left? Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat and she suddenly said, Mo Chuan, do you think there's a possibility that the Purple Heaven Pavilion's murderer is hiding in the Duke Ning Palace? Mo Chuan's eyes lit up and he forcefully slapped the tree beside him as he said, That's right, why didn't I think of this? What is the safest place in the capital city? Naturally it's the Duke Ning Palace. As long as he hides in the Duke Ning Palace, who can find him? Alright, I'll immediately send someone to inform Jure Feng and have him search the Duke Ning Palace for Xiao Ru. He sent out a signal and summoned the secret guard. He gave a few orders in a low voice and the secret guard immediately left. Qin Ning let out a sigh. The things that happened yesterday came one after another. Especially Xiao Ru's disappearance, it made her even more worried and she couldn't calm her heart to think about it. After a good night's sleep, she felt that her mind had become more flexible, and her thoughts were clearer. Although Mo Chuan was smart, he was still a man, so he only cared about the matters of the country. He wasn't meticulous like a woman. Ning, on the day of the Dragon Boat Festival, do you really have to attend? Mo Chuan asked. He still couldn't relax. He could stop anyone from hurting her, but Ning Dowager Dao of Zhou Ning said with a Empress Dowager Zhou had given birth to him and raised him. She had spent her entire life on him and used all her strength to raise him. He had gone against his mother's wishes and insisted on making Chen Ning the Empress, which had already deeply hurt his mother's heart. If he went against his mother in front of all the ministers, he would be very unfilial. Chen Ning's eyes sparkled as she looked at him with a determined expression. All right. Mo Chuan gave a sigh in his heart, but he reached out to pull her into his embrace. Chin of Chin Ning Dower Ting Ting Chin 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 with a vav of Ning. Chin Ning felt his embrace in warmth and her heart was filled with warmth. Chapter 1306. It's already late, let's go back and rest. Mo Chuan, you didn't sleep at all last night, right? Chin Ning looked up in his embrace. Although his eyes were still filled with light, there was a faint shadow under his eyes. She understood that he must have guarded her in the yard for an entire night, not sleeping at all. Then he went to morning court as soon as the sun came up, and after he finished his work, he immediately came back to her side. This kind of hard work made her heart ache and moved. Are you done with your things? Mo Chuan held her tightly and didn't answer her question. Chin Ning couldn't help pursing her lips into a smile. She intimately scratched the tip of his nose and said with a smile, it's done. Moreover, I've put away all the little snakes so you don't need to worry. You can have a good night's sleep tonight. Mo Chuan's face turned red. It was a good thing she didn't see it in the dim moonlight, otherwise she would laugh at him again. He was feeling more and more regret now. Why did he tell her about his fear of snakes? Very good, then let's go rest now. He purposefully emphasized the word rest. She was very smart, how could she not understand his meaning? Her face turned slightly hot as she shook her head and said, no. Why not? Your body is already much better, how long do you want me to wait, Un? He tightly held her waist. Her soft and fragrant body leaned into his embrace, making his heart run wild and his imagination run wild. Mo Chuan, we really can't. Xiao Ru's life is uncertain and her whereabouts are unknown. How can I do that with you? Her face turned red as she shook her head. Although her expression was shy, her voice was very firm. Mo Chuan lifted her chin and gently kissed her lips. In a soft voice he said, I know, I won't make it hard for you. I promise you, you'll obediently lie in my embrace tonight and I won't touch you at all right? He didn't really want to do anything with her, he just wanted to tease her. Seeing her anxious appearance, his heart was very satisfied. No. Chin Ning still shook her head. Mo Chuan's face sunk. Why not? Are you afraid that I won't do what I say? He merely wanted to hug her to sleep, yet she rejected him. What was going on in this girl's head right now? Chin Ning looked at him and said, Mo Chuan, I believe you, but if you sleep with me you won't be able to sleep well. Her face turned slightly red as she muttered. Mo Chuan immediately understood her meaning. She was right, every time he hugged her, his thoughts would run wild, but even like this, he couldn't bear to let go of her. He couldn't bear to let go of the rare moments they could spend together. But if you don't sleep with me, I won't be able to sleep well. He forcefully blocked her lips, forcing her protest back into her mouth. Mo Chuan, listen to me? Her unclear voice floated out, but he didn't want to hear her say. He didn't want to hear her rejection, so he kissed her even more deeply, telling her all the thoughts he had for the whole day through this kiss. Chen Ning couldn't break free and could only let him kiss her. She raised her lashes and looked at his incomparably serious face. Her heart was filled with an indescribable feeling of sourness. Chapter 1307. After an unknown amount of time, Mo Chuan finally let go of her. His eyes softly stared at her, filled with tenderness and sweetness. Under this kind of moonlight, being stared at by his eyes filled with love, She felt like her heart was about to melt. In his warm and firm embrace she felt very solid. It was like even if the sky fell down he would be there to support it. She didn't need to think or worry about anything. Emo Chuan's eyes fell onto her lips again. The feeling of their lips entangling was too beautiful. He wanted to continue kissing her again. She quickly covered his mouth and shook her head as she said, "Don't, let me finish first." She didn't even have time to say what she wanted to say before being interrupted by him. The moon was about to rise into the sky, so if she didn't say it now, it would be too late. "You're not allowed to say anything I don't want to hear," he threatened. She wanted to laugh again. His sudden childishness always made her laugh. "Emo Chuan, I have a serious matter to talk to you about." She stopped smiling and looked at him with a serious expression. "Serious matter? What serious matter?" She stood on her tiptoes and moved her lips close to Emo Chuan's ears, whispering a few words. "No, you definitely can't." Before she could finish, she was already interrupted by Emo Chuan without any hesitation. "Ning, do you know how dangerous you are right now? You have been targeted by the Purple Heaven Pavilion's assassins and they have never failed before. Last time that assassin didn't make a move against you because he deliberately let you go. He killed all the people in your palace wanting to give you a warning. Now his target is you. At this critical time, you actually want me to withdraw half of the hidden guards in the palace. Are you deliberately giving that assassin an opportunity?" Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said, "You're right, I want to give him an opportunity because I prepared a special gift for him. If he doesn't come, wouldn't my gift have been for nothing?" Emo Chuan instantly understood her meaning and said in a surprised and happy voice, "So you were busy all night yesterday, preparing something for that assassin? Otherwise, who do you think I made it for?" Chen Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes at him. Emo Chuan revealed a faint smile and said, "I understand. All right, I'll immediately withdraw half of the hidden guards. I still have work to do tonight, so I'll be in the royal study to read the documents. Like this, are you satisfied?" "Satisfied, very satisfied." Chen Ning and Emo Chuan smiled at each other, of course of their hearts. "I believe that this news will soon spread. Let's just quietly spread the net and wait for the big fish to walk into the trap." She smiled confidently. "Why are you so sure that person will appear tonight?" Emo Chuan stared at her. Chen Ning smiled and did not reply. She asked in return, "Emo Chuan, there are many new palace servants that came to the Guan Osprey Palace today. Did you personally choose all of them?" Emo Chuan shook his head and said, "No, the court is very busy today so I can't come. I let Xiao Si choose." "What, are you not satisfied with these people? Were they unable to move or did someone bump into you?" "None of them, but I believe that some of these people have been bribed by Zhao Rong Junju. How could Zhao Rong Junju miss such a good opportunity to change the people in my palace?" Chapter 1308. It doesn't matter who the spy is. I don't know who it is and I don't care. Chen Ning softly said, "Emo Chuan, let's not pursue this matter and pretend we don't know. I want to use his eyes and ears to spread the news we want to spread. If Zhao Rong didn't have a spy, I would be disappointed and worried. Now that it's like this, isn't it perfect?" She playfully winked at Emo Chuan. Emo Chuan instantly came to his senses. He scratched the tip of her nose and said with a smile, "For Zhao Rong to meet a little fox like you, she really has bad luck." She put away her smile and said in a cold voice, "Let's say the ugly words first. It's fine if Xiao Ru is fine, but if something happens to Xiao Ru, don't blame me for being merciless." "I understand. Zhao Rong did this kind of thing so someone should teach her a fierce lesson. It's not convenient for me to make a move so you can do whatever you want, there's no need to worry. As for mother, if anything happens I'll take care of it. You can just boldly do it." Chen Ning gave a snort. "Do you think I'm here to teach your cousin a lesson? Whether she's good or bad has nothing to do with me at all. I didn't want to provoke her, but she shouldn't have hurt the person I care about the most. If she hates me she can come at me. If Xiao Ru falls into her hands I'm afraid." She didn't dare think about it and forcefully bit her lips. Emo Chuan held her and gently patted her shoulder, saying in a soft voice, "Your worries will not happen. Zhui Feng has been hiding in the dark the entire time. If he sees Xiao Ru he will immediately make a move and will not let Zhao Rong make a move against Xiao Ru. I have already given Zhui Feng a gold medal, allowing him to act first and report later. Like this, can you be assured?" You gave Zhui Feng the gold medal for acting first and report later?" Her eyes slightly opened wide. Her eyes were filled with deep gratitude and gratitude. "Thank you, Emo Chuan." Emo Chuan messed up her hair and said with a smile, "Silly girl, who am I to you? Do you need to thank me?" "I'm thanking you for Xiaoru. I always thought you didn't like Xiaoru and thought she was stupid. Emo Chuan, I've wronged you." She apologetically lowered her head. "However, I have never disliked her because she is your most trusted person. If you like her, I will like her too. You should understand the principle of, love me, love my dog. She is stupid, but she is the most loyal person to you in the world. That girl only has you in her heart. For you, she even dared to contradict me, the emperor. For a girl like her who is loyal to her master, I will save her no matter what and send her back to you safe and sound." Emo Chuan's promise made Chen Ning's eyes moisten again. She raised her eyelashes that were covered in tears. "You're wrong. That girl doesn't only have me in her heart, she is still thinking about Xiao Si. Emo Chuan, I think it's not good for us to purposely separate them like this. If Xiaoru comes back, don't send Xiao Si away and let them continue to be friends. Xiaoru is very lonely in the palace, and with Xiao Si talking to her, she will be happier. I don't want to kill her happiness because of something uncertain in the future." Chapter 1309. It was because she could see Xiaoru's feelings for Xiao Si that she and Emo Chuan avoided having the two of them meet. But was this really the right thing to do? What right did she have to take away Xiaoru's happiness? What right did she have to control Xiaoru's life for her? No one knew what Xiaoru and Xiao Si's future would be like. Xiaoru only liked Xiao Si, but that didn't mean she was devoted to Xiao Si and loved him to the bone. She did this because she thought it was good for Xiaoru, but it made Xiaoru unhappy. If something really happened to Xiaoru this time, she would never forgive herself. "You silly girl, you always like to worry about other people. You should worry about yourself first. Believe me, nothing will happen to Xiaoru. When she comes back, I'll have Xiao Si talk to her every day to relieve her boredom, alright?" Emo Chuan dotingly looked at her and helped her brush up a strand of hair. "Now, I have to go back to the royal study. You just stay here and obediently fish. I hope you'll have a big harvest tonight." Chen Ning nodded and gave him a sweet smile. It was just as Chen Ning had expected. The Zhaorong princess had indeed placed eyes and ears among the eunuchs and maids that had just been sent to the Guan Osprey Palace. When she found out that Emo Chuan was going to read the memorials alone in the royal study, she immediately went to find the red-clothed young master and told him this news. "This is the best time for you to make a move. My cousin isn't in the Guan Osprey Palace and there's only that little fox spirit left. If you don't make a move now, when will you?" The red-clothed young master's brows twitched and he said in a surprised voice, "Princess, you've changed your mind? This young master remembered you saying that you already had a plan to humiliate her on the 5th day of the 5th month and make her lose all face. Could it be that you want her head now?" A dark look flashed in the Zhaorong princess' eyes and she hatefully said, "This princess is not asking you to take her head, but to cut her face. That little fox spirit thinks that her beauty can confuse my cousin. After losing that face, my cousin won't even look at her again. Wait until the 5th day of the 5th month, when my cousin no longer supports her, this princess can humiliate her however she wants." The red-clothed young master couldn't help clicking his tongue. "I really couldn't tell, but the princess's mind is even more vicious than this young master's. The most important thing for a girl is her appearance. If her face is ruined, it will be even more painful than killing her." His tone suddenly changed. "However, Your Highness, your request is for her head, not for her face to be disfigured. This is not in line with our previous agreement. Please forgive me for being powerless." The princess forcefully stomped her foot. "This young master, I can't help. You were the one who told me that after a cat catches a mouse, it can't bear to kill it immediately. Now, I want to make her blush and play with her properly. You're not even willing to help me with such a small matter?" The red-clothed young master said indifferently, "Princess, have you forgotten the rules of the Purple Cloud Pavilion? The Purple Cloud Pavilion only recognizes silver and only obeys orders. For something like helping, the princess has found the wrong person. This young master only knows how to kill, not help." Zhaorong Junju was so angry that she couldn't speak. She glared at the man in red. However, when she thought of his sinister methods, no matter how angry she was, she didn't dare to explode at him. She could only grit her teeth and endure it. Chapter 1310. The Zhaorong princess had come in high spirits, but she had been given the cold shoulder. Her heart was filled with indescribable depression. After she angrily left, the red-clothed young master's eyes lit up and he muttered to himself, "That silly girl wants this young master to do things for her, she's dreaming. However, this news of hers is hard to come by. Tonight is a dark and windy night. This young master will enter the palace and visit the Empress. I'll also send that Xiaoru girl's head over. That's right, I'll put it next to her pillow so she can see it when she opens her eyes. Hey, I think her expression will be very interesting. His eyes revealed a playful glow that flashed before disappearing. Then he looked at the unconscious Xiaoru on the ground and gave a disdainful snort. If it wasn't for her master, she would have already turned into a pool of blood. But she still had a use for him. This girl was more useful alive than dead. The red-clothed young master took advantage of the night to enter the palace again. The Zhaorong princess had already given him a very detailed map of the entire palace, so last time he entered the palace, it was like there was no one around. He easily arrived at Guan Osprey Palace without alerting any of the palace guards. This time he was even more familiar with the way to sneak into the imperial palace. He specifically picked the paths patrolled by the palace guards and silently approached Guan Osprey Palace. Before he even reached Guan Osprey Palace, he could already feel the hidden guards nearby. There were around 10 of them and he revealed a faint cold smile in his heart. With just these hidden guards they shouldn't be able to stop him. He could silently take care of them. In the entire palace, there was only one person he was truly afraid of, and that was the emperor called Chua Mochuan. He was an expert among experts. As for the emperor's top hidden guard called Zhui Feng, he was around the same level as him in martial arts and his tracking techniques were very good, but compared to him he was like a piece of wood, not a match at all. With just a bit of thought he could play with Zhui Feng in the palm of his hand. Zhui Feng was also one of his targets. Last time he could have made a move, but he didn't take Zhui Feng's life. It wasn't that he was being lenient, but if he let Zhui Feng die like this, wouldn't that be letting him off too easily? He wanted to torture these people on his list of enemies one by one. He wanted them to live like they were in hell, being filled with fear every second. Only this way would it be interesting. The red-clothed young master wore a black cloak that covered himself from head to toe as he silently snuck in next to a hidden guard. The secret guard did not notice his presence at all. Only when the red-robed young master was within his reach did he suddenly feel alerted. Just as he was about to make a move, he suddenly felt his Dazui acupoint go numb. Someone had used a heavy technique to seal his acupoint. The red-clothed young master arrived like a cannon and suppressed all the hidden guards in Guan Osprey Palace. He hid in the shadows and calmly listened. He found that there were no traces of Chua Mochuan nearby and his lips curled into a cold smile. This useless emperor looked smart, but in reality he was an idiot. He had too much faith in the abilities of his shadow guards. He didn't know that although these shadow guards' martial arts weren't weak, compared to the people from Purple Heaven Pavilion, their ability to ambush and assassinate was like a 3-year-old child, unable to withstand a single blow. Chapter 13:11. He was a smart and careful person. He waited until he was sure that there was no danger in the entire Guan Osprey Palace before he showed himself. He openly appeared in front of Qin Ning's bedroom door. The palace maids and eunuchs were all sleeping soundly in their rooms. This time the main target was in the room. He had no interest in these ants at all. Killing these people would only stain his hands. The time he chose was the darkest before dawn, and it was also the time he liked to make his move. With a gentle push, the door opened. There was a candle in the room and it gave off a dim light in front of the bed. He could faintly see a slender figure sleeping soundly in the bed curtains. He recognized it with a single glance. That familiar figure was his target for tonight. This was not the first time he had seen her. In these past few days he had thought of her every day. He thought of her every frown, every smile, every move, every little movement, even the sly look in her eyes when she spoke. He clearly remembered it all. Damn. Why couldn't he see through it at the time? The red-clothed young master walked step by step to the bed. The curtains were gently drawn and she was sleeping in them. That face that had appeared in his dreams countless times was calm and serene in the flickering candlelight. Not only was she sleeping soundly, her sleeping appearance was also very beautiful. The corners of his lips slightly curled up as he couldn't help smiling. Yes, he would think of her every day. Every time he thought of her, he wanted to skin her alive to vent his anger. Now he really saw her. She was right in front of him and he could touch her. She was like a fish on the chopping block, waiting to be slaughtered. On the contrary, he became calm and his furious heartbeat became very calm. His eyes flashed with a playful light, like a hunter who saw prey that had fallen into a trap and was thinking about how to kill the prey in order to obtain greater pleasure. Qin Ning. His thin lips slightly opened and he spat out 2 words. It was like a wisp of smoke that floated in the air. Her name was also very pleasant to hear. When he said it with his low and hoarse voice, it had a special charm to it. It was a pity that she was sleeping soundly and did not hear it at all. The red-clothed young master gave a regretful sigh in his heart. He admired her sleeping face under the candlelight like he was admiring a painting carefully drawn by a master. The heavens really treated this girl well, giving her this kind of flawless appearance. Even he felt jealous looking at it. Such a beautiful face, if it was ruined by his hands, wouldn't it be a pity? He did not agree to Zhao Rong Princess' request because he did not want to ruin the work of the heavens. He had many methods to torture a person, but he did not like a stupid method like disfiguring someone's face. Although he was sure that the person in front of him was asleep, the red-robed young master was still very careful. He remembered very clearly that he did not even know how he had fallen into this girl's trap the last time. She clearly didn't know any martial arts, but all of a sudden she shot out countless steel needles, catching him off guard. He couldn't dodge and was stabbed like a hedgehog. He didn't know what kind of medicine the needle was, but as soon as it entered his bloodstream, he felt like he was being bitten by thousands of ants. The pain was unbearable and he instantly lost all his strength. Therefore he absolutely did not dare to let his guard down this time. Chapter 13:12. Chen Ning. The red-clothed young master slightly raised his voice and blew into her ear. As expected, her eyelashes flickered and she slowly opened her eyes. He had a playful smile on his face. He was prepared to see her shocked expression and her panicked appearance. Suddenly he saw a flash of silver light in front of him. Countless shining steel needles rained down from the sky. That familiar scene once again appeared in front of him. He heard a chi-chi-chi sound as the red-clothed young master's black cloak was pierced by dozens of silver needles. The ends of the needles were shining like stars in the dark night. Chen Ning, Chen Ning. You're using the same trick again. Do you think this young master will fall for it again? The red-clothed young master's expression was normal. He reached out his hand and threw the cloak covered in silver needles onto the ground. His right hand quickly reached out and grabbed Chen Ning's slender neck. As long as he moved a little bit, her neck would be broken with a kacha sound. At this time, Chen Ning's lips curled up. She winked at him and revealed a mysterious smile. The red-clothed young master was stunned. He suddenly felt that something was wrong, but before he could react, with a loud hong sound, it was like a bolt of lightning in the clear sky. He was hit in the butt by an unknown force. Then his body was like a ball as he smashed through the door and window. He was sent flying out of the room and landed heavily in the yard. The red-clothed young master fell to the ground and did not get up for a long time. His ears were still ringing and his mind was still in a daze. He did not know what had happened at all. What just happened? Was the heavens angry? There was an explosion in the room and he was blasted out. Was the heavens helping her? This was impossible. He felt a burning sensation on his butt. When he touched it with his hand, it was sticky and sticky with blood. It was even more unbelievable. He was injured? What kind of joke was this? Hey, are you here to kill me? Do you like the little gift I gave you? Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice rang out. The red-clothed young master looked up in a daze. He followed the voice and saw Chen Ning's face appear in front of the broken window. She was smiling at him with something in her hand that was aimed at him. The shape of the thing was very strange. He had never seen it before. It looked like a child's toy. Don't move. If you move again, I'll shoot again. Chen Ning waved the simple pistol in her hand. Seeing the red-clothed young master's sorry appearance, her heart was filled with pride. This pistol was modified based on the current pistol. She had drawn the blueprints and given them to Gu Qingzi to make the first finished product. The entire body of the spear was pieced together from pieces of wood. The power of this gun was like a child's toy compared to modern pistols. Its range and penetrative power were not worth mentioning, especially the bullets. Chen Ning could not make the powerful bullets of the modern era and she did not want to make them, so she modified the bullets of this gun. She changed the penetrating power to explosive power and added sulfur and saltpeter. The main ingredients were similar to the Thunderbolt eggs she made. Chapter 13:13. Bullet? What bullet? The red-clothed young master shook his head. He still had not recovered from his daze and had never heard of Chen Ning's new term before. He only knew that he was injured. His butt had been hit by this little girl who did not know martial arts. Although his injury was not heavy, he was so angry that he wanted to kill someone. What he hated the most in his life was being hit on the butt. Slapping his butt was like slapping his face, which made him hate it very much. Stinky girl, you dare hurt me. If I let you die, then I wouldn't be the thousand-faced young master that everyone in Jianghu would fear. He cursed through gritted teeth. Thousand-faced young master? Chen Ning looked at his face that was even more charming than a woman's under the moonlight. She was stunned for a bit before she let out a disdainful laugh. What kind of bullshit nickname is this? It's simply too ugly. A man like you actually wears a woman's face, aren't you ashamed? I only hit your butt once and you're already talking so much nonsense. Do you really think you're a woman? No, even a woman isn't as verbose as you. Comparing you to a woman is simply an insult to women. You're not even as good as a woman. Her poisonous tongue was like a machine gun. She didn't even need to take a breather, it was just like a barrage of cannons. Hearing this, the red-clothed young master was stunned. Sweat poured down like rain and he wished he could dig a hole to bury himself in. Ever since he was born, this was the first time someone had scolded him like this. He had been scolded in such a manner that he was not even as good as a woman. You. After a while he pointed at Chen Ning and took a deep breath, preparing to retort. But Chen Ning did not give him a chance to speak. What you are a stutterer. If you stutter, then shut your mouth and speak less. You don't think it's embarrassing, but your ancestors think it's embarrassing. The red-clothed young master's face went from green to red. It was as if he had opened a dye shop. His chest was heaving up and down. His stomach was filled with anger and he was about to explode. You fucking shut up for father. He suddenly let out a loud roar. You want me to shut up and I'll shut up? Who do you think you are? Red-clothed sissy, you're the little white-eyed wolf that pretended to be a child, right? TSK. Look at how useless you are. You look so feminine. You look more adorable when you pretend to be a child. Alright, you said you were called thousand-faced young master? Since you dare call yourself that, your disguise technique must be not bad. Please, look in the mirror before you go out next time. You're a man, why did you have to disguise yourself as a woman? If you're not a sissy, who's a sissy? Not only are you a sissy, you're a pervert. How disgusting. To meet a pervert in the middle of the night, it's like walking in the dark and bumping into a ghost. Chen Ning said this while rolling her eyes at him in disdain. The red-clothed young master went crazy. Although he didn't understand the meaning of sissy, he knew it wasn't a good term even if he used his heels to think. You. If you say another word, I'll kill you. Father will definitely kill you. His eyes turned red as he viciously stared at Chen Ning, almost spitting out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 13-14. He looked like a wild beast that had been provoked to the extreme, ready to attack at any time. With his martial arts and the distance between him and Chen Ning, he could turn the other side into mincemeat with lightning speed. But Chen Ning did not have a single trace of fear on her face. Rather, she looked at him like she was looking at a clown. You want to kill me? Come, if you don't kill me, then you're just a cowardly mouse, a sissy that can't even compare to a woman. She deliberately said in a provocative voice. Su Ji knew that the person the Empress Dowager Zhou cared about the most was a red-clothed young master, so she voluntarily jumped up from the ground. This servant will go take a look. Like a red light, the Empress Dowager is waiting here for this servant's news. Chen Ning raised the wooden spear in her hand Empress and aimed it at the red-clothed young master's forehead. Su Ji was less than a meter away, her fingers guards and headed for Guan Osprey Palace. Another sound of the gunshot was so loud that all the people in Guan Osprey Palace were woken up from their red-robed young master's eyebrows. However, they had received strict orders that no matter what happened, the red-clothed young master's body was sent flying out of their broken kite by the large impact. No one in one of them. He fell to the ground and could not get up for a while, just like a fish that had been thrown onto the shore. They and Ning would they. My mask, Chen and mask. He let out a mournful cry. From Guan Osprey He used his hand to touch the mask on his face, but he could only feel pieces of skin on his hand. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey of captivating stories. Leaving your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. The good thing was that his face was still source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel. It was hard to distinguish his facial features. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure. Not bad. My master's product